Warning. The information shared in these conversations and videos are intended for general knowledge and entertainment purposes only. It should not be considered as legal advice or professional guidance. Additionally, any documentation or references to specific content are solely for the purpose of discussion and understanding. It does not imply endorsement, promotion, or support of said content. The views expressed in these videos and/or conversation are those of the individuals involved and do not represent any official stance or opinion. The content you are about to experience may contain strong language, including explicit words and phrases. This language is used for artistic expression and may be integral to the storyline or character development. It is important to note that the use of such language does not endorse or promote offensive behavior. Viewer discretion is advised, and please enjoy the show responsibly. Disclaimer. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. The Canadian Copyright Act, Section 29, allows an individual to use copyright-protected materials when creating a new work such as a mashup and to post the new work online on a website like YouTube. Fair dealing provision for specific purposes like research, private study, education, parody, satire, criticism, review, and news reporting.
Step up, step up! Yeah! We clash! We clash! We clash! We clash! Yeah! Step in the arena, mind locked and loaded. Truth on my blade, every line's exploded. You swing your words, I counter with precision. Battle of reason, this is my mission. Raise your fist, let them know. No. Raise your voice, let it blow. Woo! We clash our swords of reason. Cut through like no retreat. Yeah. No fear, no chain, no treason. Woo. We clash our swords of reason. Woo. We clash our swords of reason. Cut through like no retreat. Yeah. No fear, no chain, no treason. Woo. We clash our swords of reason. Step back, I'm a scholar and a fighter. Every claim you throw, I strike tighter. Logic and power, I never fold. In the war of words, I'm solid gold. Raise your fist, let them know. Whoa. Raise your voice, let it blow. Woo. We clash our swords of reason. Cut through like no retreating. Yeah. No fear, no chain, no treason. Woo. We clash our swords of reason. We clash our swords of reason. Cut through like no retreating. Yeah. No fear, no chain, no treason. Woo. We clash our swords of reason. Every thought a fortress, every claim a storm. We forge a truth where chaos takes form. Ideas ignite like lightning through the night. In the war of minds, we bring the light. Step in, feel the heat. Truth is my weapon, never beat. Raise them high, break the ceiling. With a fire, with a feeling. We clash our swords of reason. Cut through like no retreating. No fear, no chain, no treason. We clash our swords of reason. We clash our swords of reason. Cut through like no retreating. No fear, no chain, no treason. We clash our swords of reason. We clash our swords of reason. Cut through like no retreating. No fear, no chain, no treason. We clash our swords of reason.
Welcome, everybody, to Swords of Reason right here on the Speakeasy Show, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. This is where logic meets passion. If you're new here, the format is simple. Each debater gets 10 minutes for their opening statements, followed by a 5 minutes of uninterrupted rebuttals. After that, we move into the full hour of back and forth. This is where the arguments can clash, the iron can sharpen the iron, and then finally each side will deliver a 5-minute closing statement to lock in their case. When that's done, we move into a 30-minute Q&A. I will drop the Q&A in the chat for all of you to ask your questions for the debaters in the Q&A, but keep in mind that Super Chats, PayPal, and Cashapp questions will get priority. So if those fill up the entire 30 minutes, the free chat questions may not get answered. So if there's something you want guaranteed to be asked, make sure you send it through Super Chat, Cashapp, or PayPal. Once the formal debate wraps up, we open the doors for the Chaos and Chill panel. This is where the community can hop in, challenge the debaters, ask follow-ups if the debaters choose to stick around, because that part is optional for them. But it's always where things get wild regardless. Today's debate prompt is free will has to exist. And for today's debaters, for the affirmative, we have Steelborne, a voice rooted in Orthodox Christianity, calling men back to fear God, stand firm, and reject a culture he sees as collapsing under compromise. His platform centers on faith forged through disciplined masculinity and unapologetic commentary on a world he believes has gone soft. Steelborne isn't here to blend in. He's here to draw lines, defend conviction, and test ideas in the fire of debate. And you can find his channel linked in the description below. And for the negative tonight, we have jsurbanadventures, a lifestyle streaming channel known for showcasing a wide range of hobbies, interests, breaking down hot news, sharing political, philosophical, and theological views. He's also recognized for his UFC fight reviews, top-tier character impersonations, and what many call the coolest Bible study on YouTube. And you can also find his channel linked in the description below. With that being said, we are going to get right into opening statements. So we are going to start with the affirmative. Steelborne, whenever you are ready for your opening statement, I will start the timer up with your voice.
Yeah, I want to thank JS for coming out to the debate, and I want to thank Speakeasy for hosting. So the main reason that I wanted to have this debate, for just a little bit of context for the audience, was JS and I agree on pretty much everything except for this one issue, right? So JS is not exactly, he doesn't support the idea of free will, but there are actually massive consequences to denying free will. There's massive moral or ethical problems and epistemic justification problems when you deny free will, especially in the context of Christianity. My first argument for free will is actually the transcendental argument for free will. Free will is the necessary precondition for having knowledge, knowledge being a justified true belief, and free will being defined as the capacity of a rational agent to choose between alternatives in a way that is genuinely attributable to the agent, such that the choice is not merely the result of external compulsion or blind causal forces acting through them. Syllogism goes like this. Rational argumentation presupposes that agents can evaluate reasons and choose beliefs based on those reasons. Argumentation is meaningless unless one can accept or reject conclusions based on reasoning. If determinism is true, in the strong causal sense, then all beliefs are the unavoidable result of prior causes, whether that's biology, physics, conditioning, God, not rational evaluation. Under determinism, beliefs are caused, not chosen. Premise 3, if beliefs are caused rather than chosen, then the agent is not epistemically responsible for holding them. One cannot be blamed or praised for a belief one could not possibly avoid. Premise 4, if agents are not epistemically responsible, then reasoning itself loses its normative force. Truth, justification, ought to believe. The concept of you should believe this because it's true collapses. Premise 5, rational argumentation, debate, and knowledge do exist and are meaningfully engaged in, including by the determinist. Conclusion, free will has to exist as a necessary precondition for rational thought and argumentation. That's an argument just against basic determinism. Now, to be more specific, because I know JS is a Christian, I actually have arguments against theological determinism as well. The first argument goes as follows. Premise 1, God is all good. Premise 2, God is the sufficient cause of all things. Premise 3, evil things occur. Premise 4, God causes evil. Conclusion, God can't be all good. My second argument is, if theological determinism is true, every event occurs because God caused it. Adam's rebellion is an event that occurred. Therefore, God caused Adam's rebellion. Adam's rebellion introduced sin and death into the world. Therefore, God caused sin and death to enter the world. God incarnated in Christ to defeat sin and death. Therefore, God caused what he incarnated to defeat. If theological determinism is true, then God both wills sin and wills the destruction of sin, which is a contradiction. God's nature can't be contradictory. He can't contradict himself. If God contradicts himself, he can't be the standard for truth. So if the theological determinism is true, we wouldn't be able to know it because we have no objective standard for what truth is. Not only, and then there's also the moral argument. If God is, if everything that we do is determined by God, then you can't actually hold anybody responsible for their sin. So all the Jeff Stein McEffrey stuff, God caused that just as much as God caused the saints, and he caused every single person who practices the virtues. So now God's causing contradicting things. But if he's doing that and it's morally ambiguous because God caused all of it, then fuck, I just lost my place. I hate when I do this in the middle of an argument. Yeah, so if God causes or caused both the evil things and the good things, God now becomes incoherent and he becomes the author of confusion. God can't be the author of confusion because God cannot lie. But if he tells you that if God causes you to do X and causes you to do Y, and X and Y contradict each other, then how was God the one who caused you to do it? He can't tell you to do contradicting things. Either it's good or it's bad. He can't make you do bad because then he's the author of evil. Not only that, but how could Adam even rebel against God if it was determined by God that he did that? How is he not aligning with God's will if God willed him to do that? That basically just destroys all of Christianity. Not only that, but it also the incarnation makes no sense. How did Christ enter the world to defeat sin and death that entered the world through Adam if God caused Adam, which is Christ is God. So if Christ caused Adam to rebel against him and then allow sin and death into the world, but then he came into the world to defeat sin and death, so does God regret his decisions? Does God contradict himself? Has he changed his mind? All of this destroys Christianity. You can't hold both these positions at the same time. So these are the main arguments that I would like JS to address. And with that, I'll just see the rest of my time. I can't wait to get into the open dialogue for this one.
All right. Thank you for that opening statement. With that, we are going to hand the mic over to JS. And JS, whenever you're ready for your opening statement, I will start the timer up with your voice.
All right. I got a bit of a short one this time too, shorter than usual. I'll fill up the 10 minutes, but this time I'm going to go a little quicker. So in this debate, I will be refuting my opponent's claim that free will has to exist. He will be arguing the necessity of free will. My counter is simple. Our will, whether free or not free, is not necessary, meaning a requirement that could be no other way or something we have to have, but rather that we have a contingent will. Contingent in this context means occurring or existing only if certain circumstances are met or dependent on. For my opponent to win this, he will have to limit the God we both follow's omniscience, omnipresence, and above all, our God's omnipotence. He must prove that it would be impossible for God to have created us or any alternate planet of people without free will. For the sake of argument in this debate, I can actually take the position that we do have free will. Now my opponent and I both agree on the existence of free will. If people are not paying attention to the prompt, they may think that I have conceded the debate by taking this stance, but I want to be clear that in this debate, whether or not free will exists is irrelevant. In the past, I've always debated against the existence of free will by arguing for what I've coined as Christian causal determinism, pointing to things like my biblical epistemology, referencing verses that mention predestination, the elect, prophecy, biological and neuroscience demonstrations that disprove the idea of free will, and philosophical proofs for causal determinism. For this debate, I can simply agree that I was wrong then. I've seen the light of free will, and I freely changed my entire worldview. I predict that throughout this debate, we will most likely move away from the prompt, and I may slip back into my old ways and end up arguing a completely separate topic, which is if we actually have free will, not if free will is necessary or something that has to be. As I write this opener, I'm predicting that my opponent probably just made arguments about free will being a necessary precondition for things like knowledge, love, good and evil, personal accountability, mercy, and judgment, and claims that without free will, we would have a paradox relating to all of these. He will ignore the paradox implicit in his position, which is the impossibility of being free to will a decision which goes against what God already determined you to do, and focus on attacking a determinist position. If and when he does this, he will be arguing a straw man. I'm not here to debate the existence of free will. I'm here to debate the necessity of it. My argument is simple. There is no logical inconsistencies in God being completely capable of making a planet populated by robot-like puppets who have all been pre-scripted to simply walk in circles all day. These could be soulless, mindless, fleshy automatons that may or may not have a programmed concept of good and evil, and potentially even a pre-installed faulty illusion of free will. This would not be outside of God's power and would not lead to any contradictions. As long as it is possible for God to do this, then our free will is not necessary or something we have to have, but rather a gift given by God, contingent on his will, which is transcendent and only constrained by what is logically possible. Again, my stance in this debate will be focused on the contingency of our will. If my opponent concedes that will is not necessary, we can delve into whether we have it or not, but that is a separate debate and irrelevant to this topic. If you will not concede on this prompt, I can simply demonstrate the lack of necessity in free will biologically through examples of brain studies from people like Benjamin LeBay and John Dylan Haynes. Both of these neuroscience use MRI brain scans to predict participants' decisions up to 7 seconds before subjects consciously made decisions. Philosophically, I can defend what I call Christian causal determinism or predestination, neither of which require or necessitate free will. I would typically argue that every choice we've ever made has a cause, and every cause has a cause. The atheist who appeals strictly to causal determinism will run into a problem with infinite regress, whereas my proposal eventually leads to a first or prime cause, which is God. God is the necessary, unmoved mover who begins every causal chain, which leads to every decision we make, or what we falsely call free will. From this perspective, we see that God is necessary, and any form of will is contingent on him. Because of this, these arguments will be pointless in tonight's debate, because if we do have free will, it does not imply that that free will must exist or that we have to have it. And that's all I got.
All right. Thank you for that opening statement. That wraps up the opening statements from both sides. Now we're going to move into the rebuttal round. Each debater is going to have 5 minutes to uninterrupted directly respond to their opponent's opening argument. So this part's not a back and forth. 5 minute. When your 5 minutes is up, we'll hand it over to the next side, and then after this, we'll get right into the open hour. So with that being said, we're going to hand the mic back to Steelborne. And Steelborne, when you're ready for your uninterrupted rebuttal, I will start the timer up with your voice.
Yeah, so I want to make sure that I understand this, and you can just nod your head. So the basic argument is that if you can create a hypothetical where God created animals and not humans, then free will wouldn't exist?
It wouldn't be necessary.
Okay, it wouldn't even. Yeah, I could just grant that it wouldn't even hurt my position in the slightest. My position my position is that in order to account for the world that we have, free will has to exist. How can you can't do any of it? You can't even do accounting without free will. So the denial of free will is actually a self-refuting statement, because did you actually choose that position, or were you caused to hold that position? It's a very simple argument. And it's always been self-refuting. That's why determinism has been abandoned in the last, especially by mainstream philosophers in the last century. By the way, the brain scan studies that you're talking about with, they could predict what you were going to do within like 7 seconds. I remember the guys like LeBay or whatever. So the problem with those, he actually even abandoned that position, because he said, well, no, actually what we found out is it was actually just neural noise. It was just basically basic brain activity that was reacting, it couldn't actually prove what you were going to do beforehand. I think it was like, I can't remember the name of the article that he wrote after the fact, but it was something like, RP is just neural noise or something like that. Resting potential is just neural noise. That was all that he ever came up with. And he actually realized that you can't prove that our actions are determined by anything. You could prove that, you're going to do something by brain activity, but you can't prove what you're going to do. And you're not able to prove what caused you to do that to begin with. Now, so the other question that I have is, if man's made in the image of God, what does that actually mean to you? If that's not, the fact that we are rational agents capable of actually choosing what's good and what's bad, then there is no morality, just basically dissolves instantly. Now I'm not trying to straw man your position at all, but in order to give an accounting for the world that we live in, that's how free will has to exist, right? It's necessary to give an accounting for the world that we live in. Not in a hypothetical could I just grant that you wouldn't have to have free will. That's, that wouldn't even prove your point. That would just demonstrate that I can conceive of a hypothetical. Yeah, with that, I kind of want to move into the open dialogue because I'd rather just, have the back and forth.
All right. Thank you for that. And with that, we are going to hand the mic back over to JS. And JS, whenever you're ready for your uninterrupted rebuttal, just hop in and I'll start the timer up with your voice.
All right. So in philosophy, when we talk about something that has to be, that's necessary. The opposite of necessary is contingent. So necessary means it could only be one way. It has to be one way. Contingent means it relies on something else and it could be different. So my argument is a modal ontological argument. If there's a possible world where God could make single-celled organisms that don't have free will, and that's the only planet that he makes, and that's the only thing that exists. If that is possible, then free will is not necessary. It's contingent on God deciding to give us free will. So we don't have to have free will. God could take your free will away right now. Do you have free will when you're dead? When God does a flood and wipes out most of the earth except for a whole planet, did those people have to have free will? No. God could take away your the moment you die, God takes away your free will. So you don't have to have free will. You could lose it at any moment, and it's contingent on whether God determines that you have it or not. So when you asked me, could God make a planet of animals? So I guess you would agree that animals don't have free will. I don't think animals have free will. If anything has free will, animals don't have free will. If God can make a planet full of animals or robot people or single-celled organisms, then our free will is not necessary. It's contingent on whether God gives it to us. We don't have to have it. He could take it at any moment. It's up to him. So it's contingent on him. As far as the Adam and Eve thing, I'm going to explain how causal chains work. So you said, basically what I'm arguing is, what is the cause of Adam? Is God. God created Adam. What is the cause of Eve? God. God created Eve. What's the cause of the serpent? God. God created the serpent. God created the tree that's in the garden. So the way the causal chain works, sure, Adam chose to follow Eve. Sure, Eve chose to follow the serpent. Sure, the serpent chose to try to deceive them. If you go back and back and back and back, why did Adam choose to follow Eve? Well, you could give me whatever reason you want. Why did Eve choose to follow the serpent? Why did the serpent choose to do that? Why were they born? Why were they created? Eventually we're going to do infinite regress. I'm going to say why. And eventually we're going to have to get down to a first cause or a prime cause. And that prime cause is God. So God is the necessary. God is what has to be for us to exist, for the world to exist, for any idea of free will to exist. God is the necessary. God is what has to be. The will is contingent on what he decides to do. So we don't have to have free will. He could get rid of it at any moment. And then again, the brain scan stuff, the Benjamin Libet stuff, that's a different debate. And you've got to concede on this first topic, and then we can move into that debate. But when you do that, I won the debate, and now we're going to have a different debate. But Benjamin Libet had flawed methodology, and that's why he backed down from his position. But that's why I mentioned John Dylan Haynes in my opening, because John Dylan Haynes continued Libet's research and actually perfected it and showed that it was correct. So Libet was flawed, but that's why I mentioned John Dylan Haynes. He perfected those experiments, and he showed that our brain does decide to do things. So that's just the biologic argument. The epistemic argument, I get my epistemology, what I know and why I know what I know. I go to scripture, and in the scripture, I do see what people would call a contradiction. I do see sometimes we're told to choose. And then I know there's a paradox with accountability and judgment, and I struggle with it, but I see more evidence biblically that we don't have free will than that we do. But again, all of this is irrelevant. Like I can just concede that we do have free will, but you have to show me why it's necessary that we have free will, and God couldn't take it away at any moment. And that's all I got.
All right. Great rebuttals from both sides. Before we move into the open hour of back and forth, I'm going to talk to the audience real quick. If you're watching right now, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and also subscribe to tonight's debaters. Their links are in the description. We host all kinds of debates here on Swords of Reasons, politics, culture, ethics, internet topics, anything where reasoning and passion can collide. We put it in the arena. So if you're enjoying the format, make sure you stay locked in because we have a lot more coming. Also, a reminder for the live chat, the closing after the closing statement. We're going to be doing a 30-minute Q&A. So I've already put the Q&A there in the chat. But remember, super chats, PayPal, Cash Apps, these will get priority. So if it fills up the whole 30 minutes, we may not get to those free chat questions. So if you want something, really want answered, send it through one of the priority options. We'll make sure it gets read. And finally, thank you to both our debaters for being here tonight and bringing your perspectives into the arena. Whenever one of you is ready for the open floor exchange, you can just go ahead, hop right in, and I will start the timer up with your voice.
Okay, yeah, I want to actually address the very last point that you made. Why God couldn't just take it away. So is the question that you're asking, does God have the power to do so?
Yeah, is it possible for God to do that?
I would actually say no, and here's why. Because God can't contradict himself. God can't contradict his own nature, and because he won't do it, therefore he couldn't do it. This is the same where people try to, when the atheist tries to make the argument, could God make a burrito so big he couldn't finish eating it? It's like, no, he couldn't do that because he can't make something more powerful than himself, so it would contradict his nature. So because he can't, and because he won't contradict, because he won't violate his nature, he can't do it.
So you're saying it's against God's nature to break the laws of logic?
Yes, it's against God's nature to violate the laws of logic. God is the source of logic. So
where's the logical inconsistency with God making an alternate universe where no free will exists? Or before humans are here, no free will exists?
Well, there's no rational agents. The point of the prompt is not, does free will have to exist somehow? Actually, I can even make a stronger argument that free will has to exist. Does God have free will?
No, God's will would be
God doesn't have free will?
God's will would be a transcendent will, which is there's nothing for it to be free of or constrained by. And actually, it is constrained by the laws of logic. So it's not.
No, the laws of logic are part of the nature of God. They're not constrained. He's not constrained by the logic. He is the source of the logic. So God can't violate himself. But that's just, that'd be like saying, do you have free will? And you're going, well, I can't violate my nature. I can't fly, with wings that I don't have. So therefore, I guess I don't.
That wouldn't be breaking the laws of logic. I can fly. There's airplanes.
No, that's not what did. You're not even listening to what I just said. No.
Well, you said,
hold on. If you're saying I don't have free will because I can't violate my nature, as in I don't have wings on my back, so I can't fly from the wings on my back that don't exist. Therefore, I don't have free will because I want to fly with wings on my back. That's not a good argument. So that's why I'm trying to understand.
If I said I can jump to the moon, is that illogical?
Is it? No, it's not. Well, is it? Are you asking if it's logically impossible that you could jump to the moon?
Right. It doesn't violate the laws of logic to say
there's no logical impossibility there. There's no contradiction.
Right. So to say that God could make a planet with no free will does not go against his nature. It doesn't violate any laws of logic. It's logical that he could. It's possible if he wanted to. So how does that go against his nature?
Well, I kind of feel like this whole argument was really squirrely to try and get out of the actual spirit of the prompt, which the prompt was.
No, it's intensely focused on the prompt.
It's not. Well, it's kind of squirrely to try and get out of the actual spirit of the prompt, which was free will has to exist in the reality that we live in what we currently really.
You wanted to debate free will versus determinism, but you tried to be squirrely by making a different prompt, and then I found the flaw in the prompt. You can't.
The point of my argument was that in order to give an accounting for the world that we live in, free will has to exist.
Okay, well, that's not what the prompt says, but
yes, free will has to exist. As in, okay, does God have to exist?
Yes.
Does Christ have to exist?
He doesn't have to exist. No.
I'm not talking about the human.
I
I'm not
mean,
talking about the incarnation. I'm talking about the second person of the Godhead.
The person of the Trinity, well then, yes, he has to exist. But Jesus never, logically, and from a modal ontological stance, if there's no humans, then Jesus doesn't have to come down in his physical form. But yes, then as the part of the Trinity, then yes, he has to exist.
All right. Yeah. You know what? I'll just bite the bullet so we can move on, because it's not actually going
Okay.
with the point of the argument, or the point of the prompt. So sure, I'll just grant that it's hypothetically possible that God could create a world where he didn't give people free will, or he didn't give animals free will because he didn't give animals free will. I can just grant all that's possible. Now, how about in order to give an accounting for the world, free will has to be the case?
In order to give an accounting for the current world that we live in,
Yes.
free will has to exist.
Yeah, because we could talk all day about the hypothetical planet where your testicles are made of ice, but what does that have to do with fucking anything?
No, because again, when you say has to, you're saying necessity. You're saying it's necessary
To give an
that
accounting
free
for
will
the world,
exists.
yes.
Yeah, and I'm saying no. It's completely possible that that God made us with this illusion of free will, and that from before the earth was formed, he chose who was going to be Satan's children and who was going to be his children. We
Then
see this.
salvation no longer becomes something participatory. It just becomes a total, roll of the dice.
Well, it's not a roll of the dice because it's predetermined.
Oh, okay, got it. So if it's predetermined, so does God choose who's going to be
Rolling the dice would be random,
Does God choose who's going to be PDFs before?
and random would not be free will.
I'll just grant that too.
Okay. What were you about to ask though?
So if everything's predetermined by God, does God predetermine who's going to be PDF?
Yeah, it was
Did he
predestination.
predetermine that they think that's
It was-
right?
Does he? No. What
Like,
they
he didn't predetermine that they think it's right.
No. So in like the story of Jacob, when was it Jacob or Joseph? Where they try to kill their brother, and he says, "What you meant for evil, I meant for good."
I can't remember which one. There's so many J's in the Bible too.
I know it was
It's hard to
Joseph. I think
remember.
it was Joseph when his brothers threw him in the hole and left him to die. But then God sent one of his brothers, I believe it was Reuben, to pull him out of the hole and save him. And then Joseph has the dream that the stars are going to bow to him, and that is an analogy that one day his whole family, all the future tribes of Israel, are going to come bow to him. He goes and serves Pharaoh in a prison, and then serves Pharaoh and ends up becoming Pharaoh's right-hand man. And then sure enough, a famine comes, and there's his whole family bowing to him, just like God said, prophesied was going to happen to him. And it happened. In fact, prophecy alone destroys free will.
No, it doesn't. Prophecy doesn't destroy free will because. So let me ask you something. Does foreknowledge entail causation?
No, but it's not just the foreknowledge. It's not just the omniscience. It's also, you're forgetting the omnipotence. So if how could there be a PDF if God didn't create the PDF? That's how the causal chains work. So
you're saying that because you were created by God, therefore he caused all your beliefs?
he caused me. How can I sin if I wasn't caused?
Okay, so let me make sure I get this right. If you sin, it's your parents' fault because they were involved in creating you?
Fault is the wrong word, but if they
caused it?
No,
They
no, no, no,
caused the
no, no,
sin?
no, no, no. You're missing it. My parents are also contingent. I'm contingent on my parents. My parents are contingent on their parents. Their parents are contingent on their parents. This is how causal determinism works. Every contingency means you're borrowing from the energy from something before you. So every choice you make, I could say, why did you choose that? Why did you choose to go to the fridge and get food? Because I was hungry. Why were you hungry? Well, because my body digests food. Why did that happen? We go back and back and back and back and back. Eventually, we have to get to the prime cause, which is the necessary. Everything else is contingent.
So if your argument for predeterminism is that,
This is also an argument for God, by the way. The contingency, this is the prime mover, the prime cause, the first cause, the contingency argument.
No, okay. If your argument is so I'm trying. I think if I honestly want to try and strawman or steelman your position the best and not strawman it, I think what you're actually saying is that everything's predetermined because God's the primary cause.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, no,
so
everything is
did God
everything
allow
is
for a world with
contingent.
secondary cause?
Secondary cause. What do you mean by that?
Well, were you predetermined by God to do this debate, or was there a secondary cause, me asking you to do the debate?
I think God knew that you were going to ask me the debate. God made you the way that you are, and everything that
With my
happened
nature,
in your
yeah.
life. Yep. And God made me the way that I am. God made you to challenge somebody who doesn't believe in free will, and God made me to take any debate that anybody throws at me. So
Well, that's good to know. I might challenge you to a few more. Yeah, just for saying that. So hold on. I want to make sure. So because God created you, therefore He caused you. So if that you realize that means God causes you to sin by that same standard.
God caused all of the variables, every infinite variable
So then God created sin.
that leads to my sinning.
No. If you say God created all the variables, but you could still choose not to. That wouldn't be that God that wouldn't be predeterminism. That would be God created everything. I wouldn't dispute that, but you still have free will to choose not to sin, right? Like there's no way to get around this. If you believe in the concept of sin, of not choosing to align your will with God's in any given event, right? Then that entails that you had a choice in the matter. If you have a choice in the matter, then it wasn't predetermined by God what you do. Even if He knows what you're going to do, it doesn't entail that He caused it.
Do you think
God created a
Peter?
world with secondary cause. You want to go to the Peter denied Christ 3 times? You want to
Yeah,
go
you
that one
think
again,
Peter?
Jazz?
Yeah, I'm
do
the
that.
originator of that.
No, I
Do you
know. I'm
think-
saying you and I have argued this one before.
Okay, well, we could
We
do
can
anything.
No, it's fine. I'm cool with it.
I mean, we could do that. We could do. Could Adam have chosen not to? Could Adam and Eve have chosen not to eat from the tree?
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah.
Can I just get a clarifier here, just like as like an audience member? I just want to see, just are we debating whether a world can exist without free will, or whether our world with moral and love can exist
Yeah,
without
whether or not
free will?
our world. I just conceded that it's there's no contradiction in God creating a world where free will doesn't exist, but in order to account for our world, we have to have free will, and that's where we've moved to.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure. Okay, go ahead.
That's correct, JS, right? You agree with that
Yeah.
summary?
Yeah, but I'm
Right.
still arguing for contingent will over free will.
Yeah, I know. I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure that we were talking
Yeah, we've
that if it's a world or our world with and like I heard you mention morals and love, so I just wanted to see where we were at, just to clarify for the audience. But go ahead. I'll give you guys some time back too.
yeah, and eventually I want to get to like the knowledge and stuff like that. But this is the toughest thing for me, and so I see why you would want to stick here with the accountability and the good and evil.
Well, not even that. We can move to the knowledge part if you want. I'm totally cool with going to the
No, we can keep working through this for a little bit, because I'm going to be honest. I see the paradox. I understand that there's a paradox here that I have. And I've struggled with this question all my life. Why? Did God create sin? Did God create evil? And I know
God created evil and He can't be all good. That's a contradiction. Let me ask. Okay, hold on. If God created evil, that would give.
But I
evil a
disagree with
positive
that
ontology.
first.
Okay,
Go
so
ahead.
do you think that God has or that evil has a positive ontology or a negative ontology? I can explain what I mean by that if you want.
So
like a shadow doesn't have positive ontology.
Yeah, I already know your answer, but the way I see it, evil is the opposite of good.
Okay, but that doesn't actually answer the question still.
So it would be a negative ontology.
Okay,
if
so
good has a
doesn't
positive,
actually exist. It's the privation.
I know this is your answer, but you asked me for my answer.
No, I'm asking you. So it's not. So evil doesn't actually exist. It's like the privation of something. It's the privation of good.
That's not what I'm saying. That's what you would say.
Okay, then evil would have to have a positive ontology. Then there's no way around this.
It would have a negative ontology.
No,
It's
a
the
negative ontology is my view. A negative ontology meaning that evil doesn't exist like as a
No,
positive
your view
ontology.
is that evil has no ontology, that
No,
it's
no,
a
no, no,
privation
no.
of
It has a
good.
negative ontology. So a
Oh,
shadow
well
is
then
a
we agree,
shadow
but
is a
that's not.
Well, no, we don't agree because you have a different understanding of what I'm saying. A negative ontology is how a shadow exists. It's the privation of light. But there's no positive ontology that a shadow has. It only exists as the negation of something, as the privation of something else, the privation of light, right? Or like coldness doesn't actually exist. It's just the privation of thermodynamic energy.
If it doesn't exist, it has no ontology.
No. It doesn't have a positive ontology. It doesn't exist as a positive, like a thing. It doesn't exist as in like any kind of a thing other than it's a privation of something else. So it has a negative ontology.
Okay, well then I agree. Yeah, I agree. It has a negative ontology.
Okay, so
But just so you know, you're not arguing a typical like orthodox stance right now.
no, yes, I
Well-
am. This is most definitely consistent with the church. That evil has a negative ontology. It's the privation of God's will.
Privation meaning that it has no being, it has no essence, it has no ontology.
It has no
It's-
positive essence. The church has always held the view that it has a negative ontology. As in, so when
Right.
I do something evil, what that means is I'm doing something that actually goes against God's will.
Okay, well, so it exists.
It's in a negative it has a negative ontological status. So it's like if I do something evil, means I'm doing the opposite of whatever God's will is, right? But God's will is the only thing with a positive ontology, the good. In this scenario, right? So like if I curb stomp a toddler, that's evil because I ought not curb stomp a toddler because God says don't do that.
Okay.
So it's the privation of me aligning myself with God's will.
Right, but
And I have to be able to freely choose it for it actually to be wrong.
so you're saying does evil exist?
Not in a positive ontology, no.
So it doesn't. Okay, so I guess you're saying
I'm saying the status of evil
yeah.
itself. What is evil?
but you're saying it doesn't exist. God didn't create evil.
No, God didn't create evil. Us rebelling against God and doing the opposite of what he wants is what is evil. It's just not aligning with him.
Now, what if something evil has to happen and God foretells that it's going to happen and says that he's actually well, you would just say that just wouldn't be evil then. So like
so if you're saying like evil by like what, some arbitrary standard, like some people are like, but God killed half the world because he was mad in the flood or whatever, like,
or when God hardens Pharaoh's heart.
So there's two different ways that's actually explained. In one of the passages says that God hardened Pharaoh's heart, and the other passage it says Pharaoh hardened his own heart.
I'm talking about the one where God hardens his heart.
No, I know, but they're actually talking about the same event. And
because Pharaoh was going to set them free. He wanted to set them free.
Yes, but
and then
the
God forcefully hardened his heart.
No, God didn't forcefully do it. Pharaoh hardened his own heart. God allowed that to happen. So God allows you to reject him. He allows you to do.
Then why would there be two different? Why would it differentiate between the two? Why would in one passage it says he hardened his heart, and then later God hardens his heart? Why would there be two if it's the same thing?
I'm trying to remember. So I remember I actually listened to Jay give an explanation of this today at a long ass stream. I'm trying to remember exactly how he worded it. So it was.
Did he say something about
I think it's
anthropomorphic language?
Yes, I think it was like anthropomorphic language was basically what he was saying.
Okay. Yeah, when you talk, yeah, I've heard, yeah.
Like God didn't force Pharaoh's heart to harden.
Okay, so when in Isaiah, prophecy is given to Isaiah that God is going to use the Assyrians as a spear to capture Syria, Judah, and Israel. God says, I'm going to use Assyria, and Assyria are evil. And God's going to use them to attack and kill a whole bunch of people and then put them into slavery for however long they go into slavery for. So that's a good thing, right?
Ultimately, it would be good, yes. But God can use what man intended for evil for good.
Right. Okay. And I'm saying that God uses everything that man intends for evil as good. That every evil act that happens, God intended for good. And
so God intended for Jeff Stein McEffrey. He wanted him to do that.
he caused, so if we do the causal chain, he caused Jeffrey Epstein to be born. He caused all of the rich elites to be born. He caused everything that happened that led to that moment. And then that happens. So
the question is still, even if I grant all of that, the question still remains, could Epstein have done something different?
no.
So then God's now the author of evil. If God's the author of good and evil, God's a contradiction.
Oh yeah. I'm glad you said that, because earlier when you asked me, if God created evil, does that make him evil? And I said no. And you said author just now.
Yeah, he's the author. He would be the author of evil. If Epstein couldn't have chosen not to diddle kids, if he could have chosen not to do that,
if I write a story about a serial killer, does that make me evil?
No, that'd be a fiction.
Okay, well, I see God as the author of everything, and we're just characters in the story.
Well, yes,
God is the author of everything, including the bad stuff that happens, and that doesn't make him evil.
It would make him the cause of evil. You can't separate like the authorship
he's
or
the cause
from intentionality.
Do you see?
Hold on, real quick.
Go ahead.
So let's just take the hypothetical you gave that if you wrote a story, right, about a serial killer, did you intend to do that? Is that your intention? Okay,
yeah.
So now let me ask you this. If you go and rob a store, did you intend to do that? Or did God cause you to do that? You realize the whole system of justice is predicated on free will too, right?
If I rob a store, my intent is whatever my motive is. So if my motive is to get money, I'm broke, so I rob a store to get money. Well, why am I broke?
It was still your intent. It was still your intent. Because you don't have to rob the store to get money.
I'm saying it was my intent in the illusion of free will. So I feel like I'm intending to do this.
Could you not have robbed the store? Could you not? No, you couldn't have done differently.
No.
So did you have to accept this debate?
Every wrong I've ever done, I couldn't have done differently. I can't go back in time. Past.
I'm not saying you can't go back, but did you have to make the decision that in that moment? Did you have to make that decision, or were there other options available to you? So let me give you an example, right?
There were other.
Hold on. Do you agree with me that sex outside of marriage is bad? You shouldn't do that, right?
Right.
Now let me ask you something. If, let's say, somebody was like trafficked into it, they're technically having sex outside of marriage, which is bad, but there's not intention behind it. So are they committing a sin?
No.
Right, because they're being coerced.
Yeah, you're making a compatibilist argument, but just now you were making a libertarian free will argument. So the idea that we could have, the idea could you have chosen differently is the libertarian free will. The idea that you have free will outside of force is compatibilism.
No, libertarian free will would still, even the libertarian free will model would still say if you're coerced, it's not a moral issue if you're coerced into, like, if you're coerced into, like, I don't know, executing somebody, like you're forced to do so. Are you still responsible for it?
If you're forced to do it, are you still responsible for it?
Yeah, actually, no, this is an even better question. Hold on. Do you agree
No.
with... Okay, you weren't forced to do it. Great, so that makes sense.
No, if you were forced to do it, then you weren't.
Yeah, then if you were forced to do it, then you're not responsible because you were
right.
being forced into doing so. It was against your will. So then you agree with the distinction between manslaughter and murder.
Sure. Yeah.
That's all based around intentionality. Like, basically murder is when you chose to do it.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand what you're saying, that we have intentions, we make choices and stuff. What I'm saying is that's an illusion of choice, and that any choice.
Illusion of choice. How is it an illusion? Did you have to do it?
Because it was infinite variables that led to that moment.
That would be free will.
But that's what I'm arguing against. I'm saying that's not free will. I'm saying that that's a preponderance of different things that led to this moment. And that when you made that choice, it felt like you were just choosing something, but really you were going to choose what you chose and you couldn't have chose differently. I don't believe
How do you know that?
Because I chose it.
How could you know that that's the only option?
it doesn't matter that there were options. Choice and will. Will is agency and faculty. Choice is selections, options, decisions. They're not the same thing. So Schopenhauer says your will can inform your choice, but your will can't inform your will.
Yes, you can do what you will, but you can't will what you will. I'm aware of the atheist argument.
Well, okay, but it's whether
It's the atheist cop out to get out of determinism.
Yeah, that's an association fallacy. So
No, I'm not saying I'm not saying it's wrong, because I'm just saying it's a very common argument I hear from atheists. I'm not saying it's wrong because atheists say it.
Okay.
Or anything like that. It's just I was aware of what you were saying. So hold on. So let's go with do you define knowledge as a justified true belief?
Okay, we're going into the knowledge part now.
Yeah, let's go into the knowledge part now, because this is we've kind of done the morals for circles.
Okay. A justified true belief. Sure. If that's the definition of knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So JTB is knowledge. Would you agree that in order to justify your belief, you'd actually have to examine reasons and rationality as to why you should even hold that belief?
Ask it again.
Okay, so in order to justify a position, do you have to give an accounting for why you believe it? There's a reason why there's the justified true belief. So it's a belief. You can give it like, if I just say, well, I believe that like the people like you watched Andrew's debates where like people are like, I just believe everybody should vote, and he's like, why? And they're like, because I just believe that they should. They can't give a justification for the position, so it makes no sense. So they don't actually know that everybody should be able to vote. They just believe that. Now, if you can give a justification, that's great. You can give justifications for beliefs, but that doesn't make them true. So they have to be a justified true belief.
The reason I'm like wondering how I should answer this is because, and maybe you're going to disagree here, but do you think animals can have knowledge?
No.
Okay, so see, so a dog doesn't know
not
to
the
eat when it
philosophical
gets
sense of
hungry.
knowledge. That's just reaction to stimuli.
Well, yeah, and I think we're all doing reaction to stimuli.
If you're asking so I think what animals do is more so like pattern recognition
or instinct.
Instinct could be another one, but mostly pattern recognition, where it's like, if I bring the leash over to my owner, the owner knows I want to go the owner takes me for a walk. Okay, I want to go for a walk. Go get the leash, take it to the owner. Right? They just kind of do pattern recognition, and Pavlov actually proved that. That's what the Pavlov experiments were actually doing, was that animals have pattern recognition.
Yeah, see, I think so we have a difference it's a semantics problem here. I think of knowledge like instinct. Like a dog knows to drink water when it gets thirsty. I think of knowledge like instinct. And what you're saying is knowledge, I think of as like wisdom. Like, what's the difference between wisdom and knowledge to you? Like, I know that 2 + 2 = 4.
Look, I can explain this really easy. Okay. Knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put it in a smoothie. No, I'm just kidding. I actually, so we can look up a definition of wisdom if you want to try go for a working one. I'm cool with that. You want me to look one up? Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do agree. Wisdom is kind of, I think so. Yeah. So the quality of having experience, knowledge, or good judgment. Oh, great.
So they're gonna have they're gonna have knowledge in the
yeah, with Merriam-Webster, like always. Let me see.
Like knowledge could lead to
Okay, so the ability to make sensible decisions and give good advice because of prior experience. Like, could you have wisdom without having any experiences?
You could. God could give you wisdom.
Well, I'm saying God could give you. I'm saying, but like, I can even just grant that God could give you.
I could live my whole life in a box.
Knowledge.
I could live my whole life in a box, and God could give me wisdom in that box, and I could come out and be somebody could come out of the box and be some sort of prophet inspired by God. Okay, that wisdom comes down from God. Knowledge is just some worldly thing.
No, I disagree. I think that knowledge is part of God's nature, and we can actually participate in the knowledge of God, not in his essence,
knowledge puffs up, love builds up. Of myself I can do nothing, and of myself I know nothing.
You're going the whole, all I know is that I know nothing?
I mean, I'm quoting from the Bible, but that's what I believe. Yeah.
So okay, so you realize
I-
that if you know something, then you don't know nothing. If you know that you know nothing, it's a self-refuting statement. And the reason that Socrates said that was he was just basically explaining that I can't actually justify my epistemology. He can't give an accounting for how he knows what he knows. All he can do is just say what he knows, but he can't give an accounting for that because he would always have the problem of either he would always either get into a circle of second order knowledge claims or go into an infinite regress.
So you could know without the that's why I kind of almost disagreed on the justified true belief estimate. I know that's the standard accepted definition, but I kind of disagree with it because I think the wisdom is being able to justify your knowledge, but animals have knowledge.
Well, okay, hold on. How is
a tree knows how to make green leaves?
Well, no, a tree doesn't have a will, so how does it know anything?
I know,
and mind have a will.
I know that's the semantic
Okay, do animals have minds or do they have brains?
They have brains, and that's what I'm saying.
Mind?
No.
Okay, so animals aren't capable.
Mind is consciousness.
Well, no, so
animals don't have consciousness.
The reason why Christianity makes the distinction of animals don't have a soul and they don't have a mind is because they can't actually determine what's right versus what's wrong. They can just determine between pain and pleasure.
Right, but they know when to eat.
Yeah, but that's just biological drive.
And I'm saying knowledge is just knowing something. You don't have to be able to justify
knowledge
what
is
you
just
know.
Knowing something? You do have to justify what you know. How do you know that? Hold on. How do you know that you don't have to justify what you know?
Because whether or not I can justify it, I could know 2 + 2 = 2 because somebody told me to. Sorry. Your camera came out of focus. It distracted me. I could know 2 + 2 = 4 because somebody told me. I may not be able to explain math. I may not know what a plus sign means or what a 2 means or know about set theory or anything like that.
Well, no,
but I know 2 + 2 = 4, but I can't justify it. And that's why.
Well, then the question, then anybody could just walk up to you and go, how do you know that's true? And that's where the justification part comes in, is how do you know that it's true? That's what knowledge, there's a difference between knowing something and actually having knowledge, I would say. If you want to say like, I could, remember something that somebody told me, that doesn't mean that you actually know the thing. That you just remember that somebody told you. Like if I told you that ghosts are pickles, right? Now you know that I think that ghosts are pickles. How do you know that? Well, because I just fucking told you. But that doesn't tell you how I know that ghosts are pickles.
Yeah, I'm saying the ability to justify what you know is the wisdom.
Wisdom is just basically making a decision based on past experience.
Being able to make, that's the definition you found, but I don't know. Maybe I'm using proprietary definitions, but the way I see it, knowledge doesn't rely on free will. Like people know things even if they can't justify. Their justification could be because my teacher told me.
That's not an actual justification in the philosophical sense, and you know that. Come on.
That could be their justification. And if they're correct,
to authority, it's fallacious.
I know, but if they're correct, if they do know it,
then it's lucky. If they're caused to hold a belief that happens to be true, then true and false don't actually become incoherent. It just becomes lucky. You were just lucky, right? Whereas in truth has to have a standard for what that is. But if God causes all beliefs, then he causes my false belief. If your view is correct, he causes my false belief of free will and your true belief of not free will. But the only reason yours is true is because it just happens to be right, not because you actually rationally came to the position if your position was true. Whereas you have to work through positions and reason, like God exists because you've rationalized through it and you've reasoned through it and you've evaluated the outcomes and you've evaluated the entailments of the positions, right? Where you can actually go through and reason the position out. So that's where the justification part is like, okay, if you deny this, if you deny the law of non-contradiction, you're also implying the law of non-contradiction has to exist. It's an entailment.
Yeah, but if I if I know 2 + 2 = 4 and my justification is that my teacher told me, how is that any different than saying I know?
That's not a justification. It's not a good justification. Justification is giving a good reason to believe X.
Well, hold on. if I say I know that God exists because God gave me the ability to know him and to have he gives us the divine revelation, the ability to know him. How is that not an appeal to the authority of God?
They're not all appeal to authorities are fallacious.
Okay, so only some appeals to authority are fallacious.
Well,
So if
yeah.
somebody,
So like, okay, all arguments are ultimately going to end up being a circle, right? So if you're like, okay, how do you know that God is the source of goodness? Well, because it's part of the nature of God.
have you ever been to Antarctica?
Never been to Antarctica.
How do you know Antarctica exists?
How do I know Antarctica? Okay, so do you want my actual answer to this?
You're gonna say you don't? You don't know?
So the knowledge of Antarctica exists.
Australia doesn't exist?
Australia is fucking fake. Come on, let's be real. Anyways, there's no way the fucking mouse deer with the frog leg jump is real. That's bullshit. Kangaroos aren't real. But so if you want to go with, okay, like, do I have empirical sense data that I could, that would prove? Like, I've never seen Antarctica. I've seen pictures of Antarctica. Right?
How do you know those pictures are real?
That's what's in question. But so there are different ways of knowing things. So like, is it logically possible that Antarctica doesn't exist? There's no contradiction. So I can't give a logical entailment that it has to exist. But what I can do is I can give, you can have knowledge through many different ways. You can come to knowledge. So there's not just, like empirical sense data or just logical entailment. There's also, you can give, like, if you want are you trying to ask, like, do I have like exhaustive philosophical knowledge to prove Antarctica exists? No, I don't. Like, I don't. But do I believe that it exists? Yeah, but I wouldn't even necessarily say that I have knowledge of Antarctica because I can't really justify the position aside from, I've seen it on a map and I've seen it in pictures.
Or you can look at geography books, look at maps, you look at pictures, you can watch videos of people going there. But and I would say we can know that Antarctica exists through all of those things.
But if you're so, I guess I can frame it. So, do we know that Antarctica exists? Sure. Do I have personal experience, empirical sense data? No.
Okay. But so the wisdom is what lets us reason and rationalize all these things to say, I've never been to Antarctica, but I believe Antarctica exists. I know Antarctica exists.
You can't reason through positions and be like, well, I've never seen, I'm trying to think. I've never seen Saturn except in a picture. How do I know? How do you know Saturn exists other than you've seen it in the pictures?
Yeah, well, this is my argument. I have to go based off of science, history, telescopes.
Yeah, there can be different reasons to position, but the justification is giving a good reason to believe the position. So like, you can be like, well,
and God gives us the ability to do that.
You can mathematically demonstrate that at least something has to exist there. And we can just call that something Saturn, and it has to be X size based on, the gravitational pull and effect it has on other planets. So you can actually give a mathematical accounting for Saturn existing. You don't have to give just empirical sense data that you've seen it.
Yeah, and so all of these things we can know, and all these different ways that we can justify them, this comes from God giving us the ability to rationalize things and to figure things out.
Rationalization would entail free will, because you can in order to rationalize, you have to weigh different positions and you have to actually choose.
Some people can't rationalize.
Hold on, have you ever been persuaded out of a position? Has anybody ever changed your mind?
Yeah.
So did they cause you to change your mind, or did God predetermine that you change your mind at that moment? Or did they just give you good reasons to abandon the position that you had?
God predestinated them to exist and me to exist. God predestinated them to come into my life for me to meet that person, have that conversation with that person. And so, yes, it was predestined that I would change my mind about that topic.
Was Christ's incarnation predestined?
Yeah. Before the formation of the earth.
So then what is so it's not a redemption. Christ is not a redemption.
Not a redemption.
He's not actually redeeming the nature of man by defeating sin and death, because he was predetermined to do that. So
He was destined to do that. And we were destined to be sinners. If I was not ever
Okay, so
made,
let
if
me
I
ask,
was
if
not
you're
ever
saying that you're
born, then how
destined
could I
to-
sin?
Okay, so I can agree with that. That it wouldn't, if you weren't born, it wouldn't be possible for you to sin.
And
That
this is why
makes
I'm
sense to
arguing
me.
for contingent will. My agency is contingent on me being born. Me being born is contingent on God creating me. And
Yeah, but
so this goes to another thing. I don't believe
agency entails free will. If you have agency and you have choice in the matter, then you have to be able to freely choose. If not, you're coerced.
No, I'm saying I didn't choose God. God chose me. That everyone who is a child of God was predestinated before the beginning of time. God predestined his children. And that's from Ephesians 1, 4, and 5. But and other places, but that's just my favorite one. But it's all throughout the Bible. We don't choose God, he chooses us, and that makes sense to me. Because it doesn't make sense to me that we can just choose God.
Does God want all of us to choose him?
Uh,
Does God want all people to repent, move away from
I don't believe
sin?
God wants. I think that's that anthropomorphic language that Jay's talking about. I don't think God wants for anything. So when it says God wants all of his children to come to him, or he wants nobody to go to hell, I forget the exact words, but
I get what you're saying.
that's that anthropomorphic language. That's us looking at it through a human eye and writing it down using words that we understand.
Does God want to love us?
Because does God want to love us? No, he does love us.
But
why would he?
Does he also want to?
Want
Or is
to
he forced to do that?
There is no force. God is the top. The ultimate force. So God can't be forced to do anything.
Did God have to create the world?
No.
So God can choose to do things.
Yeah.
So why can't he choose to love us?
I didn't know. You asked, does he want to love us? Wanting,
well, yeah,
God wanting something implies God is lacking something.
Well, it doesn't imply he's lacking something.
Well, then how can he
want? There's no entailment that he's lacking.
Okay. How can God?
Hold on. Can you want somebody to come to the church?
Yeah.
Are you lacking something because you want them to come to the church? No, you want what's best for them.
I'm lacking them going to the church.
How are you lacking them going to the church? So
if they're already going to the church, then why would I want?
Hold on. Do you agree with this definition that what it actually means to love somebody is to will the good of them, like to will what's best for them?
What you want for someone is to will the best for them?
No. What it means to love someone is to will what's the best for them, to will what's good for them. Ultimately, for us, what's good is for them to abandon their passions and repent.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
With God. Okay, so you and I agree with that. Why couldn't God want people to do that?
I think. Well, I like the way you said it before. If God wills it, God wills the best for us.
Same thing. Yeah, God wills the God.
We want the best for people because we lack things.
So if God forces you to accept him, is he doing that out of love? Is that truly love?
I don't see it as he forced me to accept him. I see it as he made me to accept him.
But that would be forced.
Because you're going to get into this.
Could you choose to reject God?
No.
You couldn't just go off and be a degen Coomer?
I could do that, but if I do that, then it was predestined that I would do that, and I never knew God, so I never accepted God truly. If I could just
acceptance
reject,
entails that you have a choice.
No, I'm saying that if somebody says I was a Christian for 5 years, and then I decided I don't want to be a Christian anymore, and they fell away, that they were never really a Christian.
No. That the church has always rejected this position. You can absolutely.
I know the church does. Not all churches do.
Well, Christ actually said this.
Your church does.
Christ said this in one of his parables too, when he talks about
a lot of churches. In fact, the church that America was built on, the Protestant church, would agree with me. So
the Protestant church has some problems. All right, we can get into that in another debate if you want. We can do orthodoxy versus Protestantism all day long, but
I don't want to do that. I mean, I'll do it if you challenge me to, but I'd rather not. But
But So do you remember the parable? I can't remember exactly where it's in the gospel. I can't remember which one it is. Okay. There's so much information in the Bible. It's not even funny, but it's the parable of like
I can't
the
remember
seeds,
stuff I read last week. So
the seeds like growing in good soil versus them growing in rocky soil.
the parable of the sower.
Parable of the sower. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So the point of the parable of the sower was that like, okay, you can have good seeds and like you can like, okay. So like from your view, can people like leave the Protestant church?
Can people leave the
So let
Protestant
me ask you,
church?
like,
Yeah.
could somebody actually be a Christian and believe everything you believe, and then come up with some arbitrary reason why they don't want to believe it? Maybe it's one of those people who goes, "Sure, I accept that God's real. I accept that this is good and that I should do this."
I
but
feel
don't
like
want
I should have been the affirmative in this because you're doing all the cross exam, but that's fine. So with the parable of the sower, could somebody choose to leave the church, leave the Protestant church? Yeah, they could choose to do that. Yeah.
Okay, but could they choose to leave the Protestant church, but they could have been an actual Christian beforehand?
So when you say leave the church, like you could leave the Protestant church and go to Orthodoxy.
Yeah. Okay, let's say that. You think the
I could
Protestant
do
church
that.
is the true church. You think the Protestant church is the true church.
No.
You don't?
No, because it depends. Because there's messed up Protestant churches. There's been messed up
Whatever church you belong to.
Catholic churches, and at some point, could there be a false Orthodox church? Like, could somebody start a church and call it the Orthodox Church, and it be a false Orthodox church?
I mean, I guess you could still like Coptic.
You would say it was never
Orthodox.
really, or
Well, no,
you would
so
say
I
it
would
was
say
never
that they
really a true
schismed.
Orthodox church.
No, I would say they schismed because they were in agreement with us up until the Council of Chalcedon, and they embraced what's called monotheism, I think is how you pronounce it. But basically, their view is that Christ only has one nature. So instead of having two natures, fully God, fully man, he has one God-man nature, but that has massive, soteriological entailments. But
So they claim to be Orthodox. They claim to believe in Orthodoxy, but you would say they were never really a true Orthodox church.
I would say they were never truly Eastern Orthodox once they affirmed the position.
Okay, and I'm saying that just because somebody says they're a Christian and they say they believe in Christianity,
No, I'm not asking about identifiers. I'm saying, could they actually believe in Christianity and be a Christian and still fall away from the faith?
No,
It's not possible.
they were never actually a Christian. Because
How do you know that? That's just post hoc.
Because from my perspective, we are predestined to be chosen by God before the beginning of the earth.
So you realize if that's the case, then God intentionally sends people to hell, and he intentionally.
No, because God knew that person was going to fall away, and was never really
so that
his
hell's
son.
not a punishment.
It's I'm sure it's just a place that half of the people go. I don't know.
So how can you? Okay, so if you were predetermined to hold a position, how could you know that your position was correct and the other person who was predetermined to hold the opposite position is incorrect? They were both predetermined by the same source. They were both caused by the same cause to hold the beliefs that they do. So how could you actually determine that their view is incorrect? How is their view any less true than yours if you were both predetermined?
We would use our faculties. We would use our mind to.
So you would like reason through it and evaluate the options, and then like freely choose which one was true and which one was correct.
No, I would either know that it's true. I don't freely choose to believe that 2 + 2 is 4.
Can you sin right now?
Can I sin right now? Yeah.
Do you choose not to do it?
I sin all the time, and it's not me that sins; it's sin within me. That's what Paul.
It's not you that did it?
No, that's what Paul says. He says the things I want to do, I don't do, and the things I don't want to do, I do. Very often, I do the things I don't want to do. Have you ever said, "I'm never going to do this again," and then you ended up doing it again?
Yeah, I would just be, much more charitable.
Why didn't you free will yourself to stop?
I would just say that I didn't. I could just say that I didn't mean it, or that I gave into the passions, or whatever it was. But here's the thing: my position
So
actually makes this
so there were
coherent. Hold on.
influences.
My position makes this coherent in that if I said that I was never going to do this thing again, like let's say the hypothetical of like, like a person says they're never going to watch porn again, and then they do,
Yeah.
right?
Why didn't they
My
free will
position-
themselves to
hold on, My
stop?
position makes that consistent of you still shouldn't have done it. Even
Okay,
if you
but
did it,
that's
you shouldn't
irrelevant.
have done that.
You're right. That's irrelevant, though. It's why didn't you free will yourself to stop? Why did you do it again when you said you didn't want to?
Because you gave into your passions. People do it all the
Okay.
time.
So there was some sort of influence. You had a passion. Why didn't you freely will your Can you freely will your passions?
No, not like. Well, it depends on what you mean. So, like, let me clarify. Can I freely choose to deny my passions? Yes, I can. Can I freely choose to engage in my passions? Yes, I can.
If you freely choose to deny one passion, that means you have another passion which outweighs that passion.
No. The passions are specific. I'm not saying like. So in Orthodoxy, the passions are things like giving into lust. Basically, the passions are like one of the passions.
If I hate going to the gym, but I do it, that means that to go home and stream and go to bed, to get stronger and healthier. You want to get strong and healthy. Passion outweighs the other passion.
We're equating passions as in very specific things. When I say the passions, I mean like giving into lust. That's one of the passions that you feel as a human because of your fallen nature.
Right. And then refraining from lust is a passion to be righteous.
No, it's not a passion to do it. The passion is giving.
Why is it a passion to do wrong, but I can't have a passion to do right?
So we're equivocating on the word passion again.
How am I using it differently than how you're using it?
Okay, so if you want, I can actually get a very specific definition of what I mean by the passions.
And so my point is, while you look it up, but I'm saying if I have a passion to be right and do right and serve God, and that's my passion.
Okay.
And then I have another passion to do drugs. Whichever one outweighs the other one is what I'm gonna do.
So passion is not exactly the same. So like, okay, so the passions are distorted energies of the soul that enslave the will and darken the nous. So inclining a person away from communion with God. They are acquired, they're habit forming, they're contrary to man's natural purpose, which is the
habit form. Would say
the natural purpose of man is to achieve theosis.
Okay, and I would say that if you're a son of God, then your passion is to achieve theosis.
No, it's not your.
No. Just because Plato said it doesn't mean I have to agree with it.
I'm not a Platonist. No, so the class.
But you just read that's from Plato.
What?
Well, I'm assuming because it's talking about the nous.
So the Orthodox Church believe the nous is just the Greek word for it's like the heart of the or like the mind of the heart or like the it's more referring to the heart or it's the metaphysical organ of the soul, essentially. That's the Orthodox view. So you can think of the nous as like, this is a really rough analogy, but it's like, so the nous would be like your spiritual organ, how you interact with the energies of God. So from our view, what the nous is like, think of the nous as like the windshield of your car. The more that you give into the passions, the more that you sin, the more fogged up that windshield becomes. Whereas the more you align your will with God's and the more you align, the more you deny the passions, embrace the virtues, practice them, repent.
So you're saying I can't have a passion to serve God?
Yes, but we're equivocating on what we mean by the passions. So like, I actually have a list of the passions. Like of what I mean when I say that. So the passions would be things like gluttony, lust, avarice, anger. Avarice can be greed as well. Sadness.
So, are they all negative?
Yeah, the passions are bad. You don't want to give into the passions.
Okay.
Like your earthly desires, your physical desires are the passions. You don't want to give into those.
Okay. I don't know if I would agree on that, but
I'm just saying that's what I mean when I say it. Is in like that's what the reference is when I'm saying that.
See, so a lot of this is semantic. A lot of this you're using words and I'm using them differently than you're using them.
That's why we need to understand what.
I know. I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying.
Yeah, so
that's what I'm seeing happening here.
Intellect meant to perceive God.
So what would you call a good passion? What would that be called?
Like, as in like
a virtue? Like then I would.
So yeah, like you want to practice
a desire. Could I say desire?
I think virtue's still better. So like if you're meaning passions as in like something I really want to do, is that
But
what you mean?
I'm
Like
saying, can my desire to be virtuous outweigh my passion to be worldly?
yes, but that's because you choose
Okay.
to practice the virtues.
I don't believe that I chose that. I believe that that's something that is embedded in us by God, and that God knew that we were going to be that way before the formation of the earth. So, for example, have you ever heard of an unrepent or a non-resistant non-believer? It's an atheist problem with God. It's an argument against God from atheists. Is the non-resistant
The
non-believer?
non-resistant non-believer is more like it's essentially like the way that agnostic is used loosely.
Yeah, it's like it's somebody who doesn't believe in God, but they're willing to.
They're not
They
opposed
just-
to it, but they just don't have the evidence. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
The way people
So,
loosely use the term agnostic, even though that's not what agnostic means.
well, you're not gonna.
Like that's what you're talking about. Like when somebody says I'm agnostic, what they actually mean is more like the unresistant unbeliever.
Yeah, and so if you're a non-resistant non-believer and you die that way, do you think like there's a possible world where you lived an extra day and then you started believing the next day? Or do you believe that God knew they were going to die a non-believer, or God knows that they're going to die a believer, and maybe in a week from now they find God?
Do I think, well, so from my view, God's outside of space and time, but like, so do I think that God knows what decisions you're going to make, but that doesn't entail that he caused you to make the decisions. That's the difference.
Right. I know. And people will always bring this up. They'll say it's a category error that I'm making, but that's just the omniscience. That's not the omnipotence. You're leaving out the omnipotence. God's all powerful.
Well,
God
if God's
created
well,
you.
hold on. If God predetermined you to do something, then it's slavery. It's coercive. It's
If-
not freely chosen.
If God is outside of time, everything is present to him.
Yes.
The
he
whole
sees past-
timeline-
he sees the past and the future at the exact same time.
Right. And God created everything. That means
Yeah.
every step you take, every hair that grows on your head, every
God knows what
moment.
decisions you're going to make because he exists outside space and time, and he
See,
knows what decisions you're going to make. But that doesn't mean that he caused you to make the decisions. That's the difference.
If God created Earth, because it's funny how we recognize that God is outside of time, but then we look at creation and we just think about the beginning of the earth. Why, if God is outside of time and he created everything, then how did he not
I
create this
feel like-
conversation right now?
Well, I feel like we're equivocating on the word God here. So when you say God, is your reference the Father?
Well, we could say the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. We could say
I'm
whatever.
just trying to understand what you mean when you say that. Because I have a different view of the Trinity than like a Catholic would or a Protestant. We believe in what's called monarchical Trinitarianism, that the Father is the sole cause, but he created the world through the Son.
When I'm talking about God, I'm talking about the same God you're talking about: God, Christ, the Holy Spirit. Yeah, that God, the Christian God.
Okay, so the reason I'm trying to clarify that is because there's a lot of people who equivocate on that specific thing. So
I'm saying the creator of everything. Even if we took,
okay, so when you say God, you're referencing the Trinity. Okay, that's all I was trying to figure out.
yeah.
Okay,
sure.
so yes, the Trinity is outside of space and time, but can they act within space and time? Can persons of the Trinity act within space and time?
Yeah.
Okay, so then give me an accounting for this. How can God be both outside space and time and inside space and time?
He's all powerful.
Yeah, but he can't. How could he do both of those things if that's a contradiction from your? Wouldn't that be a contradiction?
Yeah, but he can present himself inside of space and time, but he's still outside of. No. So he can't be outside of space and time and inside of space and time. He can
Then
be
how is
outside.
Christ? Hold on. How is Jesus Christ God if he can't be both? Because Jesus Christ exists in time and space, and he was fully God.
I don't know, but this is going to become a Trinity debate, and like how is God and not how is God the Father and the Son at the same time? Like if you can justify that, then I can justify God being outside of space and time and being able to present himself. Well, I don't want to go into that. I'm saying it's not a contradiction that God is outside of space and time, but he presents himself to us within space and time. It's like it's different realms, and he can present himself to us, but he's still outside of space and time, even though to us, how he presents himself, whether it be through a fire and a pillar of fire and a cloud of smoke, or an angel of the Lord, or Jesus, or however he chooses
Just so
to
you
do
know,
it.
by the way, I fully agree with you on this position that he can do that. I was just curious how you would give an accounting for it from your view.
Yeah, it's
since you're
tough.
since you don't believe in monarchical Trinitarianism.
I'm not even sure what that means, but maybe I do
That
believe
the
in it.
Father is the sole cause. He's the sole. He's the sole arche.
That there's a hierarchy.
Yeah, there's a hierarchy within the Trinity.
I do believe in that. Yeah.
Okay, so
The Son submits to the Father.
Okay,
But I thought that was heretical from the Orthodox perspective, but maybe
No.
not. Okay, cool.
At least not that I'm aware of. I don't think. I'm pretty sure it's not. But basically, back to the point of the passions. So the whole concept of the passions versus the virtues, that also would have to entail that you can freely choose to do either. Like, so you realize salvation has to be participatory. Otherwise, it can't be a universal thing.
It's not a universal thing.
No, is it possible for anybody to achieve salvation? Can anybody do that?
No.
No.
Nope. Not if their father is Satan.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, can any person?
I'm saying
choose
there
to
were
come to
people who
Christ?
were predestined to be the pot that is made for destruction, or
So
the
then that makes God the author of evil. If God creates evil, then you're giving evil a positive ontology.
if that's the bullet that I have to bite, because that's again, that's something that I've always struggled with.
That would be a dualist position. So like you're like from your view, it would have to be that like the good and evil are battling each other.
Again, God is the author of everything. And if God writes a story where something bad happens, that doesn't make him bad.
It would be the intentionality behind it. You couldn't separate it.
The intention is the good.
No, the intention.
What we mean for good, he means for evil. See, I know we're out of time, but
Yes. So that would wrap up the hour of open floor, and I see there seems to be a little bit of iron left there to sharpen. Just keep in mind.
Panel, I think.
Keep in mind there's the 30-minute Q&A as well, and yeah, you could put it into the open panel if you wanted. But do you guys want another 30 minutes of open floor? Or?
I don't want 30 minutes, but there is one thing I want to touch on that we
You wanna
didn't.
do,
get.
like, 10?
Maybe 15 minutes then? How about
10 is fine.
10? You want another 10 minutes?
Yeah.
You good with that, Steelborne?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay, we'll
I
put
feel like
another 10.
I feel like, to be fair, I've been really heavy on the internal critique of JS position. If you want, I'll just answer questions.
Yeah. We'll give another 10 minutes then, and then even if you guys feel like you need the other 20, just let me know at the end of the 10, right? So go ahead.
Yeah. Because I'm the negative, and I haven't been, doing a great job of tearing down free will. But I've kind of, I know you challenged me to this, so that's why I said I kind of feel like I should have been the affirmative. But it's fine. I just want to talk about one thing, and this is a point I always make. I don't know if you've heard me make it before, but when we talk about good and evil, this is from our human perspective, and we're not God, so we don't really see. This is why the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, Adam and Eve were not supposed to eat of that. Once we know what good and evil is, we start judging and we start playing God. We start pretending like we're God and like we know what's good and evil. And that's not our job.
How does that follow?
I just explained it. We weren't supposed to eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
Well, the only reason we weren't supposed to do that is because God said not to. The Adamic covenant was
so it was wrong.
God's command.
Right. So it was wrong to do it.
Yes, it was wrong to do it.
Okay.
But now that sin and death has entered the world, making judgments about what's good and evil, if you have a standard for that, your standard that you're appealing to is God. How is that wrong?
Right. Your standard has to be to judge it from God's perspective. And we can't really do that sometimes because our minds are corrupted, our body's corrupted. So what I point
to, give me a scenario?
Well, hold on. Let me just it's called computational irreducibility. And it's the idea that we live in the present. God is outside of time.
Wicked Wally.
We live in the present. God is outside of time. What
He's
we
also
the,
inside time, right?
the reason we need to think that we have free will and we can judge what's good and evil is to learn. So when we see a murderer, when we see a Jeffrey Dahmer, and then we lock him up in jail, it shows the whole world, don't drill holes in people's heads and have sex with them, or you're going to go to prison and get sodomized to death.
But that
So-
doesn't mean that it's that doesn't because we imprison, that doesn't entail that it's actually wrong, right?
Because we imprison him, again, it's up to God if it's wrong or right.
Yes,
Like-
but did God also make it so that we can know what's wrong or right based on revelation? Like he gave us a standard to appeal to.
Yes, through him. But I think
so. If God says like, don't do, X thing, and then we do X thing, can we say, hey, that's evil, you shouldn't do that?
yes, we
That's
should.
making a value judgment from the
But
perspective of God.
So when God lays out these laws, it's because he knows that we're lower and that we don't see things the way he does. So he makes a law. He knows we're going to break the law. We break the law, we get punished. This is the computational irreducibility. So let me just explain it real quick. That's why I wanted the 10 minutes is if I'm playing a video game and in the video game, I do an action and a series of events happens in the video game and we watch it play out on the screen, the game has already computed what the end result is going to be, but it shows us the animation because our brains don't work as fast as the computer. And it would be a really lame game if I'm playing a baseball game and I hit the ball and it just lands, it skips to where everything happens. We watch it play out, but the ending has already been reduced. The computations for the end result has already been determined, but we still watch it play out. God is that computer. And I know that probably sounds blasphemous, but in this analogy, God is the computer that can reduce every atom in the universe.
Is he the computer or the programmer?
In the analogy, he's the computer.
Okay. Wait,
So basically,
really
I'm
clear.
saying
Wouldn't the world be the computer?
no, the computer, the world.
Or you mean like the processor is God? Like,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm saying every molecule that's moving around in the universe is part of the video game. And God is the program that already knows where every molecule is going to go before it goes there. And I guess he's also the programmer too, sure, because he also designed the game. So he designed the game and he's the computer that knows how everything's going to play out before we can, but we have to watch it play out. So we're in the game. We're the things that are watching it happen, but he already knows what's going to happen and he designed it and he created it and he programmed it. So he already knows when I'm going to die. And do you think you could prove God wrong? This is my big question that I always ask people who believe in free will. Like if God says you're going to the grocery store tomorrow, God knows you're going to the grocery store tomorrow. God created you and he knows that you're going to the grocery store tomorrow. Could you prove him wrong? Could you not go?
I would say no, but just because God has foreknowledge doesn't mean he caused me to go to the grocery store still.
But he created you. He created the grocery store. He created
God didn't. I wouldn't say God created the grocery store in the same sense that he created me. Man created the grocery store. God just
he created the trees that get cut down. He created the men who build it. He created. So you believe people create?
Yeah, I believe people can create.
Oh, I don't think so.
Well, actually, I would argue more so that they discover. But I guess it would come down to how are we defining creation?
Forming from nothing.
Okay, from nothing, no.
Right.
But
so
we
can
at the very least we can manipulate matter.
I would say God did create the grocery store.
Hold on. Did God build the store physically, or were there people who did that?
People built that, but God designed those people to do that, and he predestined them to do that. He He designed
realize
them.
that
He
his whole-
designed the
his whole
trees.
problem
He
with
designed the
predestined-
concrete or the rocks that make the concrete. Our ability to draw the blueprints, and he
Makes
knew
salvation a roll of the dice, dude. This totally destroys all of Christology.
it's not a roll. I mean, it's
This makes salvation a roll of the dice.
it's not a roll of the dice. It's a roll of the dice to us in our
Yeah,
mind.
it's a roll of the dice of whether or not you were one of the lucky ones that God
No.
that God did predetermine to save.
If you want to call it lucky, I would just say
how
it's
would it not be?
destiny.
You have no control over whether or not you were born to be saved.
I don't want control. I submit. I relinquish my control. I don't want control. I'm not in
saying
control.
no, I think that I am in control of my passions, and I am in control of my virtues, and I'm in control of my actions.
I don't think
and if
you
I do
are.
something, it's actually morally wrong because I chose to do the bad thing.
Could you stop loving your wife right now?
Are you asking, is it logically possible?
Can you do it? I don't know.
Well, I need to know what you mean by that. Are you asking like
On
could I choose to
command,
do that?
any
No.
any family member, anybody you love, could you just on command just stop loving them?
No, I don't think so.
Right. Because yeah, I don't think you could either.
But could
And
they
that's a
do
good
something?
thing.
Hold on, but could they do something that caused me to do that?
Could they do something to make you stop loving them?
Yeah.
Yeah, if we're talking about Eros, but I believe if you're a Christian, I don't think that anybody should be able to do anything to you to make you stop having God's love for that person.
Well, no, I'm not saying God.
Like,
doesn't
this is
love
what
the person. That's
people-
not what I'm saying. I'm saying like if
People would say without free will, we can't have love. I disagree. I think God's love, agape, the true love, not a mental love, not an emotional love, but true love, love for your enemies, love for everyone,
the will of the good
regardless
of, them,
of what they do. Yeah, I don't think
Hold on, how can God?
I don't think we choose that. You either got
can
it or you
God-
don't.
How can God will what's the best for us, and us go against that without rejecting the love of God?
If God wills you to do something, you can't do anything else.
Yes, I agree, but that would also mean that it wouldn't be love. It wouldn't.
But
be
that
love.
would be you don't have free will then.
No, it'd be slavery.
I am a slave to Christ.
No, I don't mean. Okay, so let me ask you this.
And it's the best way to be.
Okay, hold on.
Even
if
when
somebody's
Christ was
born- hold on,
when
if
Christ was
somebody's-
on earth as a man, he said, "Not my will, your will be
So hold on,
done."
let me
Even
ask you
he
something. If
submits to the
somebody is
Father's will.
born, let's say somebody's born in like the deep Amazon, and they've never heard of Christianity. Are they going straight to hell?
I don't know. God knows their heart. It depends on what he predestines for them.
Can you go? Can God predestine you
I'm
to
not
go to
the-
heaven
I'm
without
not
ever
the-
knowing Christ? Can God
I
predestine
can't
you to go to heaven without-
computationally reduce that. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but God does. God knows
Yeah,
their heart.
I can grant that God knows that, but that doesn't entail that He causes them. Does God cause the Aztec to carve the hearts out of people on the pyramid and then offer it to the sun god who's not fucking him?
I'll bite
Did
the
he
bullet
cause
and
them
say,
to do
yeah.
that? He caused them. He caused them to do it. Okay, so God caused Aztecs to carve out people's hearts. Therefore, now God is causing people to do evil things intentionally, which would mean that God is now causing deception.
What?
All right.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Did you want to?
Yeah,
I was just
think
gonna say-
we need a little more time.
What they meant for
You want a
evil, he
little
meant
more
for good.
time here?
Yeah, I think so.
No,
I
no,
can
no,
give you-
because I want to get to the open panel a little bit, and
Okay.
we can
All
kind of
right.
go farther than the questions and stuff. But I
Okay.
do gotta. I'm gonna run and pee real quick before
I
the
have to as
questions
well.
start.
All right. All right. Then you guys go pee quick, and that is gonna wrap up the open floor. Okay. Just a first off, excellent exchange tonight from both sides. I know you in the chat must be loving it. Okay. Because it's been a crazy good exchange. Open panel link will be after just a moment. But I want to give a reminder to you guys in the chat. Once the closing statements wrap up, right, we are going to get into the Q&A. All right, so make sure you guys drop them in now. Remember, super chats, PayPals, Cash App questions, these will take priority. So if it fills up the whole 30 minutes, not all the free chat questions will make it through. So if there's something you really want guaranteed to be asked, send it through one of the priority options. I don't see too many in tonight, though, so I think you may be lucky with the free chat questions, unless some people bump them in now.
All right, I don't have to think anymore. So I can
unless some people bump them in now. But with that being said, we're gonna move into closing statements. Each debater will get 5 minutes to make their final case here. With that being said, we are going to start with Steelborne to give JS the last word. So, Steelborne, whenever you're ready for your closing statement, I'll start the timer up with your voice.
Yeah. So, all right. You know what? I'll bite the bullet. Technically speaking, JS did have a point. I mean, not really. He didn't really have a point because it was just kind of like a weasel out of the spirit of the prompt, which was, could I hypothetically conceive of a world where free will doesn't have to exist? Sure. But in order to give an accounting for this world, free will does have to exist. Because if it doesn't, then you can't actually choose a position because it's true. You were just predestined to believe that position. And if God is the one who caused all of this, as God is the predeterminate, if God predetermined me to believe that the best practice for worshiping Christ is to curb stomp toddlers, and JS is caused to believe the opposite, we were both caused by God to believe that. So how do we know which one's true? If God caused both of our positions to believe that. So it destroys epistemology. It destroys morality, because if I can't choose to sin, then the sin was caused by me. Sinning was caused by God. Therefore, I am now absolved of all moral responsibility to do it for anything that I do. Because remember, it wasn't me. It was God caused me to do it. The same scenario of like, okay, if I forced you at, like pew pew point to, to grape somebody, what you didn't commit a sin because you didn't, from my worldview, you didn't commit a sin because you're being forced to do it. You're being coerced. Right. But I guess from JS's position, well, actually, God did it because God caused it, and God predetermined that it would be the case. So, there's massive problems with affirming even theological predeterminism. Like, how did Satan rebel against God if it was God's will that he did that? Like, how can you rebel against somebody if you want them to do it? Like, it's in you will them to do it. Like, let's say, I'm like the general of an army, and I will my soldiers to mutiny and, put me to death by firing squad. Well, did they actually mutiny? Because I actually wanted them to do that. So they actually did follow my command. They did follow my orders. So there's massive problems with predeterminism. Look, here's my extension. JS, abandon this dumb position of predeterminism. Come to the one true church. Go to divine liturgy. Clean out your noose. I promise free will will make much more sense if you go to an actual divine liturgy and don't listen to Pastor Bob, who tells you that you got to be frying in the good oil or whatever it means to fucking achieve salvation in their view. Come to the one true church. I'm not saying that you're going to hell, though, because you're not an Orthodox Christian. We would never make that claim. I don't know the salvific state that you're in. Couldn't possibly know that, but you don't have the fullness of the truth. You should come to the one true church. And with that, I'll end my closing. This has been a lot of fun, JS. I'd love to debate with you on other topics, though. You're a fun debater.
All right. Thank you for that closing statement. And with that, we're going to hand the mic over to JS. So, JS, whenever you're ready for your closing statement, I'll start start the timer up with your voice.
All right. I'm going to do a little quick Bible thumper. I'm going to do a little Bible thumping real quick. So I'm going to do Ephesians 4 and 5. And then for the sake of time, I'm going to skip to 4:11. It says, according as he hath chosen us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and without blame before him in love, having predestinated us unto the adoption of children by Jesus Christ to himself, according to the good pleasure of his will. And then 11 says, in whom also we have obtained an inheritance, being predestinated according to the purpose of him who worketh all things after the counsel of his own will. So this is saying that we were chosen. We were chosen before the foundation of the earth. All of our choices, all of the options we make, all of these are the result of infinite variables that led to this exact moment. When I choose Fruity Pebbles or Cocoa Puffs, it seems like I'm making a free choice, but there's a reason why I picked whichever one I picked. Even if it's just that I'm left-handed and the box is on the left, and so I happen to grab it with my left hand, and I grab that one. There's tons of variables that lead to every choice that we make, and if we ask, why did you make that choice? Why did that happen? Why did that happen? Eventually we get down to because God said so, because God created everything. And I see that there's a paradox, that I have a paradox with the good and evil thing. I don't find the love or the knowledge arguments compelling. I think I answered those pretty good. The good and evil one is difficult, and I see the paradox. I see that I have a problem here, but I also see a paradox on the other side with the omniscience of God and the omnipotence of God, the creator of all things, who's outside of time. Doesn't just mean he created the world and then just said, go ahead, do what you do. He created every moment in time. He created every atom in its motion for all of time. And so when the atheists talk about causal determinism in the universe and how things all lead to a thing, I think they're close, but they miss one important thing, which is God. If you add God to it, it solves that paradox for believing in free will for me. But then I run into another paradox. So either way we go, we're going to have contradictions and paradoxes. And I happen to choose that we don't have free will. I freely willed myself to not believe in free will. I'm trying to free will myself to change my mind, but I can't seem to do it. It's strange. I don't get it.
Your news seems clouded.
And then I like when Paul says it's not me that sins, but sin within me. When you talked about when the angels fell, did they have free will? That's a different question. Maybe God did give the angels free will. And then maybe when he saw Lucifer fall, he's like, well, I'm not going to give the people free will. I'm going to do it again. Jesus was made lower than the angels when he came to earth. Isn't there? It says he was made lower than the angels. And then he submits his will to his Father. We can find the verse in a little bit, but so I don't know. I think both sides have contradictions. I think both sides have good arguments, and this is just the side I landed on. As far as going to the Orthodox Church, when I go to church, I do go to Divine Liturgy, and the reason I'm not catechumen is because of these holdups. I have doctrinal holdups that I don't want to disingenuously join something that I'm not 100% sure of. Just join it and just do what they do to blend in. But I do go to Divine Liturgy when I go to church, and I love it. It's my favorite type of church to go. I've been to all sorts of different churches and denominations, and I prefer to go to Orthodox liturgy. But I'm not there with all the doctrine yet. So maybe someday I will be, and that will be God's predestined plan for me to do that when it happens. So that's all I got.
All right. Thank you for that closing statement. Great closings from both debaters tonight. If you're enjoying what you're seeing there, make sure you like the stream, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the debates we host here on the Swords of Reasons. We run all kinds of matchups. It can be political debates, cultural, social issues, philosophy, internet beefs even, okay? If there's a conversation worth clashing over, we bring it into the arena. And also, don't forget to subscribe to tonight's debaters as well. All right, their links are in the description. Make sure you show them support for coming and stepping into the arena and sharpening their arguments tonight in front of everyone for your entertainment. Okay. Now, before I start the timer for the chat Q&A, I like to ask a question of each debater myself based on things I've heard, arguments I want to clarify, points I think maybe were missed, anything like this. And then once those questions get answered, we'll begin the official 30-minute Q&A. So for my first question, we're going to start with the affirmative. So if I know that we got into this a little bit here, but just like a good solid answer so everyone in the audience can hear your clear answer on this. If God foreknows all actions, how is free will preserved?
Because foreknowledge doesn't entail causation, and you can never make the logical leap that it does. You can't logically justify that foreknowledge equals causation. So like, if I have foreknowledge that, Speakeasy is going to rob a bank, I didn't cause him to do that. If God knows that you're going to sin, it doesn't mean he caused you to sin, and that you can't actually justify that it does cause him based off that statement or based off that foreknowledge.
All right. And did you have anything for that, JS?
I would say the foreknowledge is only addressing the omniscience. I believe in an omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent God, which means he's everywhere all the time, knows everything, and has power over everything. Is it possible that God could relinquish that power on earth to let us roam freely? Yeah, it's possible. I just don't think that he did.
Or you don't think that God chose to limit himself?
At least, okay. So at least not all the time. So maybe I've heard the argument for injured will before, which is that, or some people will say, sometimes we didn't even get into this, but do you have free will when you're unconscious? Most people will say no. So if I knock you unconscious, that means I can take your free will from you. And you don't know when that's
no. I wouldn't say no. You don't have free will when you're conscious. I would say you still have free will. You can't actually engage with it because you can't make decisions when you're unconscious. But so from my view, free will is not like a conditional thing. It's an ontological part of human beings. It's part of the ontological makeup of you being made in the image of God. You have the ability to freely choose.
Can God at any moment take over somebody and use them for his will?
Not against their will. Why did Mary have to? Why did Mary have to? Why did Mary have to say that she was okay with?
I'm not saying that he did that with Mary, but the story of is it Balaam? Balaam, the Spirit of the Lord comes into Balaam and speaks through Balaam. That's Balaam's ass when the donkey starts talking to the king, and then it says the Spirit of the Lord came into him and spoke through him.
Yeah, but that doesn't actually entail that he was against that.
He was against that. He ends up getting killed later by God because he's a real jerk. but so if at any moment God could do that, then you only have free will when God decides you have free will. And if he can take it away at any moment, is it really free? You're still a slave to God.
So let me get this right. So you don't have free will because at any moment I could put you in handcuffs?
Yeah.
If I could take your free will.
What fucking an argument is that?
All right. So my next question for you, Steelborne, is could love still have value? Because you had brought up love and morals. Could love still have value if our earthly nature strongly determines our choices?
So basically, is the question if determinism is true, can love still work?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
No, it can't work. Love has to be both freely given.
It couldn't have value at all. Is basically.
Well, it wouldn't even exist. So how could it have value?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's.
I would say, and actually, when I think about this, that actually makes what you were saying about passion make sense to me, because I believe true love is dispassionate, and that agape, not storge, not philia, not eros. These are all mental, worldly, emotional loves. These are fake love. That true love, God's love, agape, transcends all of that, and that we don't choose it.
How is it fake love? That's what I don't get. Is you keep saying like if it's not agape, it's fake love.
Because it's worldly.
So is everything in the world fake?
I don't mean fake as in non-existent. I'm just saying it's not God's love. It's
I would agree that it's not God's love, but how is it like a mother loving their child? How is that not true love?
Okay, let's not say fake love. Let's say I don't know, subpar love, or I don't know what about.
Like it's not as strong as God's love for us.
I don't even think that. I think it's almost like illusory. It's just it's based on passion and feeling and your mind and stuff, and that it's not that true love is dispassionate and it's higher than I don't know what a good word is, but that love, agape, we either have it or we don't, and it's not up to us. You can't just make yourself love your enemy.
I agree that you have to, like, that's a virtue that you have to practice. But
Okay.
I'm just
All right.
I'm confused about the position.
So no, I don't think free will adds or takes away from love, true love, agape love.
If you didn't freely choose to love somebody and you didn't freely choose for them to reciprocate the love, how is that not slavery?
I love my enemies, but I don't freely choose to love my enemies. Sometimes I might want to whoop their ass, but
do you think that's what's best for them?
Maybe, but
then you're still loving them.
I know I could do that out of love.
Hold on. If a man locks a woman in his basement and basically forces him to love her at gunpoint, does she actually love him, or is she being coerced? Does she have a choice in the matter?
But that's well, I don't think that you could force somebody to love you. So like that doesn't
within the realm of
she could say she loves him and she could do lovey-dovey stuff. She could cook him dinner and sleep with him so that she doesn't die. But I don't think you can.
Yeah, it's not actually love because you're being forced.
Or eventually she could develop Stockholm syndrome and actually.
That's not the same, and you know it.
Well, no, but she could actually have like a worldly love for him. She could. There are captives who fall in love with their captors. I know what Stockholm syndrome is,
but that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, could you force someone to love you? If the answer is no, then if God predetermines you to be in line with him, then he's forcing you to love him.
No, the author who writes.
Could you have chose differently than what God predetermined? Could you have chose differently?
No.
Then it's force.
Okay, well then it's force.
So God's forcing you to love him.
God made me to love him.
But he
created me that. He created me that way.
Predetermined to love him, so he's forcing you to love him, which is a contradiction.
He's forcing me.
So now God's nature is contradictory?
If you want to say he's forcing me to do it, I'm saying he created me to be this way.
Well, could you do anything else? Or are you forced to do what you're predetermined to do?
That's why God is the great authoritarian. And that's why I'm just a slave.
God is the great authoritarian.
God forces you on. Wow.
All right.
I'm just a character in a story.
So my questions for you, JS. My first one is so like if no one could choose otherwise, like you couldn't have chose otherwise to do it, right? Like how can anyone deserve a punishment?
That's the computational irreducibility thing. We hold people accountable in the world. So like if I made a bad choice when I was younger, it's going to affect my whole life. I'm going to be held accountable by the world for the rest of my life. But as a Christian, I have to realize that was something that seemed bad, but it was necessary. It was something that had to happen. It was something I learned from. It's so that we can learn, because we learn as time goes on. We learn things, but God already knows. So what seemed bad, like I did something bad, was actually a necessary thing that I had to go through to get to where I am. And so the accountability is just a worldly idea that, that's screwed up. It's going to screw up your whole life. You're going to go to jail. You're going to or if you steal from somebody, you might get shot by them. The world will hold you accountable, but
Can you choose to be a Christian?
no.
Okay.
You think you chose to be a Christian, but God created you to be a Christian.
All right. And then my second
And God
question.
created people to be Muslims,
Oh.
which means that God's deceiving people.
No, he
All right.
created us.
He created people to marry 5-year-olds because that's what Allah says.
Yeah, he created people
God
to do
created
evil
Islam.
things so that the Christians, C.S. Eliot says, we wouldn't know a straight line if we had never seen a curved line. If we never saw a Muslim sleeping with young kids, we might not know that that's a bad thing. We
can
wouldn't
still
see the
know that
low
it's a
I.
bad thing
We
because
wouldn't
it would-
see the low IQ, and we wouldn't. We wouldn't
Well,
be
hold on,
like,
hold on.
oh,
Are
let's
you
not sleep
saying
with
that
our
we have to-
cousins.
Are you saying that we have to see the outcomes to know it's bad?
Yes.
We have to see the outcomes.
Or
to know
you,
that something's bad.
or you have to be told by somebody who saw the outcomes.
So there's nobody. Wait. So what? Okay. So how about somebody who was? Let's say there was somebody born in the Amazon and they were predetermined to follow Christian ethics and Christian virtues, and they were predetermined to follow Christ, even though they'd never heard Christ's name. Like, do you believe the truth is written on your heart?
Yeah.
Okay. How could they do that if they didn't know that they'd have better outcomes? Like, do people choose Christianity and have worse outcomes?
But if by worse you mean like bad things happen in their lives, yeah. Well, no,
So-
you started with do people choose Christianity? So you're sneaking that in there. I already
Okay, fine.
said
Do
it.
people
Can
become-
people be Christians and have bad things happen to them? They're gonna think it's bad, but it may be good.
Well,
That's
no,
up to
it would
God.
it would still be a bad thing that happens to them. Like, it could still be a bad thing that happens to them. Like, people, let's say you God predetermined you to be a Christian in a Muslim nation, and they burn your house down because of it. That's still a bad thing that they did that, right? Like, we shouldn't burn down people's houses because they don't agree with us,
Yeah, from our human perspective, yeah, that's bad.
right? So, do you hold Muslims to the standard of Christian ethics still?
Hold them to the standard of Christian ethics.
Like, Muslims say it's okay to marry 5-year-olds. Do you say no, that's wrong?
Yes.
So Christian ethics have to be universal.
Yeah, but
Okay, so if Christian ethics are universal, and somebody,
but the
somebody-
truth isn't written on their heart.
the truth's not written on their heart,
No,
then they haven't done anything wrong.
because their father is Satan, not God.
Okay, so Satan and God are competing with each other for souls.
It's not a competition because God determined who's going to be Satan's kids and who's going to be his kids.
All right. So then my next question for you, JS, is so like what explanatory role, or like if like, maybe I should ask it like this: if free will is unnecessary, why would a perfect creator include it at all rather than just creating only instinct driven beings?
I don't know, just because I mean maybe that's what he did. Maybe all we are is, I don't know. I don't know, man.
Yeah, like the way I was going to ask it is like, what explanatory role would free will serve in reality if a fully functional world could exist without it?
Well, I don't know if it would be.
Like, would it just be like no purpose or an illusion or?
But I don't know. This assumes that I think that free will gives us purpose.
No, I'm asking because it seemed like you were basically saying like, it seems like that you were saying, and I'm trying to ask that in a way to not say you were saying that, but like it seemed like you were saying that basically there's no actual purpose for free will, and that's why it's unnecessary and it doesn't serve a purpose. It's just an illusion of some sort.
Yeah, I don't. I don't think it's. I don't think it's necessary that we have free will. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you're asking.
Like, hey, let me think of a different way I could ask it. So you're saying free will is unnecessary, right? Like it's
Right.
it's not necessary, right? So like, what would it be?
How can we have purpose without free will?
Or no, just like what would be its role if it's unnecessary? Like if we could just
Well,
have
I
a
think
world
the problem
with
with the
instinct-driven beings,
Like-
what's the role of free will? Just
The
is
malformation
it
is-
just an illusion? Is there no
Yeah,
purpose to it at all?
I don't. I think the purpose of the illusion of free will is to make us think that we're in control. I actually think it's a
Okay.
it's a deception. I think it's
Okay, yeah. See, that's what I'm asking. Yeah.
And if I get real, if you know, I'm trying to be nice, but I think it's from
Say
the
it.
deceiver, because it makes us think that we're God, that we're in control. We're not in control. You are not in control of anything. God is in control of everything. When you believe that you have free will, that's why that's why Crowley says, "Do as thou wilt." That's why the whole women's feminist movement is about bodily autonomy, and I can do what I choose with my own body. No, we don't do what Christians don't do what we choose. We don't freely will ourselves to do what we want to do. We realize that God is in control and we submit to God. And that submittance, God knew it was it. Even that it's not really submitting. It's just how we were made, what we were made to do. The submittance is an illusion too. That's that anthropomorphic language. It's just words that we understand to explain things from our point of view.
All right. So now we're gonna move into the Q&A from the chat. Remember, chat, if you want to bump yourself up, we do have some more that came in, but if you want to make sure yours come in, send it through a super chat. Let's start the timer up. First one comes in from JB Pelter. It says, excuse me, for $5. Determinism is a defeater for debate. This is goofy.
Nuh-uh.
Nah, he
Are
said
you
nah.
predetermined to say that, JS?
Yeah. I debate because I like to debate, and I couldn't choose not to like debating. So I just do it
But
because
could
it's
you choose
fun.
not to debate even though you like it?
I think
If-
he just said no.
Yeah.
Well, no, he said he couldn't choose not to like it, but could he choose not to do it?
Yeah, I could choose not to take a debate, or I could choose to just stop doing it, but I'm not gonna, because I can't choose what I like to do, and I like doing it. So
All right. Michael Hatchtube for $5 says, I was predetermined to super chat, but $5 amount I chose. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Michael.
You were all predetermined to send speaking.
Yeah, everyone's predetermined to send in super chats right now. Re-examination show says Steelborne. If God's foreknowledge does not come from God's decree, what is the force outside of God that makes God's plan inevitable outside of God?
That's a straw man in my position.
Okay.
So I believe that
You
God
wanna
has
clear-
foreknowledge and that God makes decrees, but just because he has foreknowledge of what we'll do doesn't mean that doesn't entail that he caused us to do the thing.
Okay. All right. And next
There is
one
no
comes
force outside of God.
next one comes in from Airborne. What does that say? Airborne Animal. For $5. Thank you very much. Says the cognitive dissonance.
I'm pretty sure
is
that's a flightless
incredible.
bird just looking at it. I'm just gonna say that.
Christianity is dependent upon choice, i.e., free will. If you don't believe in free will, you aren't a Christian.
all right, well, I'm glad you can make salvific claims about my faith.
Well, I don't think he made a salvific claim. I think he was saying, like, okay, do you believe that there has to be certain criteria that you have to believe in order to be a Christian?
Are Christians not saved? I mean,
wouldn't say
are
all Christians are saved.
are non-Christians not saved?
He didn't say that
He
didn't
said
say that
if
you're
you
not
don't
saved,
believe in free will,
then
you
you're
aren't
not
a Christian.
Yeah, but that
Right,
doesn't
so if
entail
I-
that you're not. That doesn't entail that you're going to hell.
Oh, okay. Well, all right.
All right. All
At least
right.
not from at least not from mine and airborne animals view.
If I got struck down right now, if a plane fell out of the sky and crashed through my roof and killed me right now, and I don't believe in free will, and I'm not a follower of Christ because I don't believe in free will.
Well, no,
Then-
God. So from our view, God judges you based on the knowledge that you do have.
But I've had the knowledge of that argument he just made, and I disagree with it.
That doesn't mean that
So-
you can't be wrong. You can still. There are plenty of people who in my view are like they're wrong in their Christology, or they're wrong in their theology. That doesn't mean they're not saved. Like I'm not going to say that every Catholic is not saved, even though from my view they're not Christians. They're
But
not
I've
actually
heard-
Christians.
I've heard that if you are told that something is heretical, and you still continue to believe it, then,
Well,
then
no,
you're
it's not just your. So like I can just say that denying free will is a heresy, but if I don't actually give an accounting for it and you don't understand the accounting, like let's say you just didn't understand it, or let's just say like how about a really fucking stupid person doesn't understand Christianity? Does that mean they're going to hell? I wouldn't say so.
no, good point. But I still disagree with his comment.
All right. Another $10 comes in from Airborne Animal. Says, if there's no free will, there's no knowledge, no wisdom, there's no thought or choice, no repentance or salvation. There's no good or evil. That's what the father of lies wants you to believe.
Yeah, you didn't choose your sin. God predetermined your sin. Therefore, it wasn't bad.
No comment. That's what we just debated about. the whole time, so.
Wicked Wally, member for 13 months. Shout out to you. Thank you, Wicked Wally. Why does Steelborne keep talking about his passions for avarice?
So,
Damn,
yeah,
Steelborne.
nice try, Wicked Wally. But avarice just means greed.
Avarice is a passion.
Avarice is the passion.
True.
Yes.
He is passionate.
Avarice is the passion.
Very passionate avarice is. Re-examination show for $5 says, at Steel, did John the Baptist have free will not to prophecy about Christ, even though he was prophesied to do so?
The only reason that the prophecy was true was because God knew what he was going to do of his own free will. So, I mean, I guess you could say yes, he did have the free will not to do that. But the only reason that the prophecy was true is because God had foreknowledge of the things he would freely choose to do.
All right. Next one that comes in is also from Re-examination show. Did Mary have the free will to give birth to Christ?
Yes, she literally said yes.
All right. All right.
Like it
and
wasn't
then-
like the angel of the Lord didn't appear to Mary, and and then she's like, you know what? Yes, I will do as you command. And then after was like, it's not really a good time for me. I'm really focusing on my career. Okay, I'm just gonna point that out. That's not how that went down.
All right. Another $5 comes in from Wicked Wally. Says, coming up on the after panel, here's Steelborne's passions for avarice when it's Swords of Reason after dark.
I mean, I am pretty passionate that avarice is kind of cute. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, coming up now. Birds aren't even real, and thank you for that, Wally. Birds aren't even real for $5. Thank you. It says, if it's either predetermined or random, where is the freedom in either?
I don't think that it's random.
That was something I wanted to ask. Do you believe that things happen randomly?
Well, the problem with random would be like just define the term for me. I want to make sure that I understand it correctly.
No cause. Or I think you're going to say no, and you need to say no.
Does anything happen without a cause? Well, no, I would have to say no because
yeah, if things can happen randomly, if there's randomness, then that would defeat free will. I also don't believe in
I don't really believe in randomness, but
yeah.
I think that things can appear to us as random, but that doesn't mean that they're actually random.
And things can appear to us as freely chosen also, but they aren't.
All right. We got a $5 comes in from Michael Hatchtube. Says Job spoilers. Okay, so when Job relents to God's power from the he's got the wind, the tornadoes, and the hurricane, I guess it says here.
That's a cyclone.
You got the little emojis going. He gives Job new children and slaves. Are the returned obligated by previous commitments?
I don't know who that's addressed to. And to be fair, look, I'm gonna be totally fair. I'm still currently reading the Old Testament, dude. The Old Testament is so fucking hard to read. It's super dense, and it's like there's so much going on there. Okay, I've been reading the Old Testament for like a year now, and I'm like still on the Torah because I keep going back and rereading to make sure that I actually understand what was being said.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Well, I don't know.
I have read the Gospels though.
Some people might say this is bad advice, but when you're starting, I'd say don't try to read it from the front to the end, from the front to the back.
Would you say start with the New Testament?
I'd say start with the New Testament, but then you need to go back and read the Old Testament and then read the New Testament again, and you'll have a new understanding because a lot of stuff in the New Testament comes from the Old Testament. But when you're reading,
I'm not trying to justify the Old Testament or anything like that, or like trying to. So I have the Orthodox Study Bible, and so the church it gives like little syntaxes of like this is what the church the church's position on this is, or this is what this means from the Orthodox perspective. So that's never been like what is like how does this go along with Orthodox theology? I don't read the Bible of like trying to fit the Bible into Orthodoxy. I have a holistic approach where it's like without Orthodoxy, the Bible doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I'm just saying if you try to read it from beginning to end, you're going to get to parts where it's like so-and-so begat so-and-so begat so-and-so begat so-and-so for 10 pages. And you're going to be like, what is this? Or you're going to get to...
Are you talking about the begots of Noah?
Yeah, the begats, they're all throughout. They're in Chronicles, they're in King, they're all throughout there. And it gets really, it's like a trudge. And then you're going to get to the schematics for the temple. And it's like 5 pages of blueprints for the temple. And it's like, so it's not a chronological like book. It's not like a Harry Potter book. You can kind of
it's not like a Harry Potter book, he says. All right, so that is all for super chat. So we're going to get into the Q&A questions here. Remember, chat, if you want to bump yourself up, just go ahead and send in a super chat. First one comes in from Reexamination Show, said Steelborne. Could Adam have rejected Eve when God introduced her to him before the fall?
He's just asking all these questions, like
all the rejections.
Yeah,
So I'm trying. So what I need to understand what you mean by reject. So it's like, could he have said like?
Yeah, I think he's asking like, could Adam have said no? I'm not going to eat from there too.
If that's the question, yes, that's ultimately the church's view on why the fall happened. It wasn't because Eve was deceived, but it was because Adam basically he gave in to her. He knew that it was wrong.
Yeah, but all these questions he's asking, there's thousands of them in the Bible. Could Abraham have not taken Isaac up to the mountain? Could the Pharaoh have just released the Israelites right away? Could
yeah.
There's tons of questions like that.
Oh,
could Peter have not lied?
Have refused marriage to Eve? Sorry,
could he have refused marriage to
wrong.
Eve?
He meant rejected.
I'd have to say yes. He could have. I think. I'm not sure.
Could he have refused to be created?
No, I would say no. He couldn't have refused. He didn't have any will in that. Could
you have refused to be born?
No, I couldn't have refused to be born, but I can refuse to continue living.
All right. If the vigilante comes in, Steelborne, if God created logic, how is it against God's will and ability to break logic? Is metaphysics suddenly able to be explained by logic and science?
So if God created logic, how is it against God's will and ability to break logic? Yeah,
he's asking.
Go against the nature of God to violate logic because God is, through divine revelation, has revealed that his nature is ultimately logical.
Yeah,
Like,
it's basically
God can't
a
get a rock so
complicated
heavy
way
he
of
can't-
saying can God make a square circle?
Can God make a rock so heavy he couldn't lift? And it's like, no, that would be contradictory to his nature. So God can't contradict his nature. The reason why God can't violate logic is because he won't do it, and he won't do it, or he can't do it because he won't do it.
Right.
And is metaphysics suddenly able to be explained by logic and science? Well, logic is metaphysical, so no. But metaphysics can be explained by God.
All right. Rowdy Gowdy comes in and says to Steelborne, if you could, would you limit free will for people that you know are going to make bad choices?
No, at that point, I'd be playing God. Well, it depends on what you mean by limit free will. Like, are you saying on an ontological level, I limit their free will, or are you saying
Lock them
I
in
think
jail.
That's
like
what
throw
he
them in jail?
means.
Because if like I throw them in jail, I'm definitely limiting their choices, right? And like I'm
My guess is he means like if you had the ability to like limit their choices.
like ontologically, no.
Yeah. I think
Like if you could
like to
go back in
determine it.
time. Well, I mean,
I think
would
he's
you
saying
go?
like if I could I like would I like like take away from man?
It's
Yeah,
kind of
like
like
if you knew somebody was going to be a murderer, would you take away their choice to want to murder?
or would you kill baby Hitler?
That's a good
No,
way
I
of.
wouldn't kill baby Hitler.
That's actually probably the best extent of the
Yeah, that's the
question
best
there.
example. No, I wouldn't kill baby Hitler.
And then also from Rowdy Gowdy comes in to JS. Is there proof we don't have free will after life?
Is there proof we don't have free will after life? Oh, so he's trying. I guess he's saying like, because when I say if somebody is killed, they would lose their free will, and he's saying, is there any proof that just because you kill somebody, they would lose their free will?
Yeah, like so
I think he's
basically
asking
saying,
you
like,
like, yeah, afterlife here is there?
Yeah.
You also
Like-
think that it's no free will.
like, do you have
after?
the option? Let me ask something. Like, okay, do you think that when you die and you go before Christ, could you reject him? Like, could you choose to do that?
No.
You couldn't choose to be like, no, I'm good. I want to go to hell.
Yeah, I see. But this again, this
The
question
question's not, would
presupposes
you
we
do it?
have. This question presupposes we have free will while we're in life, or so proof
No,
we
it
don't
actually
have.
doesn't. It doesn't actually entail that we have free will in life.
I guess my answer is just no.
Like, does God force you to
That's fair.
be part of the kingdom? Let's say you've done
Uh,
it all right and you've done all the repentance and the confessions.
I think that gets a little bit away from what Rowdy was asking. I think what Rowdy was just asking, it's like if you don't believe in free will here on Earth, do you believe there's also proof we don't have free will after? And like what Steelborne's asking, like after once you're in front of Christ,
Yeah.
do you think we
Could
still
I
don't
then
have
refuse
free
him?
will?
Yeah, but do I have proof? I can't. No, I get no.
Yeah. That's fair. That's a big
No, it's
proof
not.
to
You
ask
answer
for.
now.
That's a big proof to ask for. $5 comes in from Michael Hatchtube, bumping himself up here. Do you prefer the original 1979 Carl Sagan's Cosmos series or the more recent Neil deGrasse Tyson reboot? If the latter, which season?
I have no idea what either of those are. So
Wait,
Oh, you haven't watched those?
Hold on. I'm gonna tell you something really cool. If you put ice in a jar, it will melt.
That's pretty good. That was pretty good. Thank you for
Hold
that,
on.
Michael. The next question we have here is from the Vigilante coming in again. Steelborne, you can Pavlov a human, so can't you use your same logic towards animals and knowledge towards humans?
You can Pavlov humans, but I don't. But the question I think is like the question. The point of Pavlov was just to determine, do animals have pattern recognition? Even JS and I both agree that animals don't have like a soul. They don't have like free will, but they can recognize patterns still. Even if they don't understand the pattern, they can just still recognize that a pattern exists. So, yes, humans can recognize patterns too.
All right. Next one that comes in is from SD Guy says, JS, didn't God give Adam and Eve free will, which is what brought about the fall from Eden?
No, he didn't, because another one of my arguments against free will, well, there's one definition of free will. My definition of free will would be the ability to make choices without outside influences, separate from, independent of outside influences. God didn't give Adam and Eve free will the same way a father doesn't give their child free will to play in the street. But so he commanded them, do not eat from this tree. But they were influenced by the deceiver, and then they followed Satan's will rather than following their father's will. If the serpent had never came, then they wouldn't have eaten from the tree. They didn't freely will themselves to do that. They followed the influence of the serpent. And then Adam followed the influence of the woman.
Yes, and if you never brushed your teeth, you'd have a bunch of cavities, but that doesn't mean that you don't choose to brush your teeth. Like, that doesn't answer the question. There's
a consequence, and that's another. I think the issue here is just the word free in free will, because free has two meanings. And that's another thing I say is that it's also got to be outside of consequence or benefit. If there's a consequence or a benefit to my decision, it's going to influence my choice in making that decision. So I'm not freely making the choice. If I know that if I punch somebody in the face,
making the choice.
No, because if I want to punch somebody in the face, but I know I'm going to go to jail, so I don't punch them in the face. Can you have incentive
to choose one outcome over the other? Yeah, but that doesn't mean you still didn't freely choose it. What if both decisions are beneficial?
If both decisions are beneficial, then I'm going to choose the more beneficial one.
No, they're equally beneficial.
The influence of which one is.
Let's say in the hypothetical,
they're equally
you
okay.
Love Camaros and you love Mustangs.
Yeah, this is Burdon's ass. So the French philosopher, I forget his name. I think it's John Burdon, but he said if all variables are the same, then the will cannot break the deadlock. It's only when if the scales are equal, you can't choose one or the other, because.
So let's say you equally loved a Mustang and you equally loved a Camaro. Like equally, like you both thought, dude, these are like both, either of these are my dream car. Like I love both of them. And I was like, held the keys in front of you. It's like, you pick. Both of them have 0 miles. They look just like they did when they roll off the lot from the factory, right? You love both of them equally. Can you still fucking pick one of them?
Yeah, but I'm going to weigh, there's going to be tons of variables.
Equal.
If all else is equal, then when I pick one, it's not going to be freely chosen. It's going to be random. And if it's random, then it's not free will.
No, how is it random?
Because I'm just going to randomly pick one.
Why is it random?
Like I may pick the Camaro because I like the way the name.
Random doesn't exist. We agreed random doesn't exist.
But your example was bad. It would actually be two identical Mustangs. Because if you say a Camaro or Mustang and everything else is equal, I may just like the name Camaro better.
Okay, fine.
So
let's do two Camaros. Two Camaros.
two Camaros.
Same year, same engine, same specs, everything.
If all else is equal, then the deadlock can't be broken unless it's random. I'm going to randomly flip a coin to pick one.
Why do you have to flip a coin?
But then whether the coin lands on heads or tails isn't truly going to be random.
Right. It's not random.
I know. So, but it's going to be based on the coin toss.
That would still be you making a decision based on the coin toss, which would be you freely chose to flip a coin rather than fucking, I don't know, play rock, paper, scissors or fucking do eeny, meeny,
I didn't freely choose to flip the coin. I flipped the coin because I couldn't choose any other way.
Couldn't you have played eeny, meeny, miny, mo?
I'm playing eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Can you choose which one?
I'm playing eeny, meeny, miny, mo because I have no other way to decide.
So you still chose the methodology in figuring out which one you want or which one you're going to go with.
But why did I choose that method? Why did I choose to flip the coin?
Instead of playing eeny, meeny, miny, mo? I don't know why you chose that. Maybe you had a coin in your pocket and you didn't
because I couldn't base it on anything else.
You could have played eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
So I was determined to flip the coin because I couldn't.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
I know what eeny, meeny, miny, mo is. Catch a tiger by the toe.
Okay, exactly. Okay,
And if
okay.
he
Fair
hollers,
one. You
let
got the
him
tiger
go.
now.
And
How do you
that's
know-
also not random either. If you only have two options, you do eeny, meeny, miny, mo. It's just whichever one you didn't start on is what it's going to end on. So.
Okay, you played spin the fucking bottle, or you fucking did the
Okay.
fucking spinner.
But why am I going to this random method of choosing? It's because I couldn't choose
Did you
based off
choose
of
to do that one.
but why am I choosing that?
Why are you choosing that method? I don't know. That could be arbitrary.
What is the cause of that choice? The cause of
want
that
one of them.
choice is I couldn't pick between them. So I had to go to that.
You've never
So
seen somebody where they're
so
like,
I was-
"Oh, I don't know which one I want to do.
So
Do
I was
want to go see
influenced.
Metallica or do I want to go see Megadeth?"
There was
You
a
never seen anybody
chain.
where it's like, I have equal opportunities to do something I really want on both of these.
Why do I even want a car?
Because you fucking want the free car. You're retarded not to want
Because
the free car.
because I desire a free car, or I need it to get to work, or I need it to drive somewhere. Do I freely choose what I want and what I need? No.
Well, hold on. Who says you win a fucking contest? You win a trivia on a radio show just because you wanted to do the fucking trivia. And they're like, okay, now you get to pick from these two.
Wait,
cars.
why did I want to do the contest?
Because you thought it was fun.
Why did I think it was fun?
Because you enjoy trivia.
Because of how I was raised, the culture that I grew up in, my surroundings, my environment, countless variables led to me thinking that it was fun to do a radio trivia show where I possibly win a car. Now I can't pick between the cars, so I flip a coin. All of this causal chain, you can go back and back and back and back. Why? I can keep asking why.
You think so? You keep saying this. Let's do that.
We don't want to do that. It would take all day.
Let's save that for the open panel.
I don't think
Eventually, I'm going to get to your grandparents had sex and made you, and then I'm going to say why.
Clayton, Grant, Gordon, thank you for the $1 super chat. I appreciate that greatly. Next question that comes in the Q&A here is from Mrs. Foxworth. If God calls something sin, doesn't that imply we had the real capacity to choose otherwise?
If God calls something sin, doesn't that imply we had the real? So sin is lawlessness.
No, sin is doing the opposite of God's will. You're missing the mark. You're not doing what you ought to do.
Okay. Well, I believe it's in John. It says
Why
that
would there
it's
be a name for sin if you didn't have a choice in the matter? Why would that?
I think sin is defined. Where we get the idea of sin is in the Bible, and the definition is lawlessness.
No, the definition of sin is not because sin is the law. That's what that means. Like God's will is the law.
Well, sin is the opposite of.
Yes, I'm saying
Yeah.
like if God's will is the law that man ought to follow. So if you violate, if you're sinful, then you are technically on that from their view lawless. But they were also theocracies. So.
Yeah, but I think that you can be influenced to break the law, whether or not you abide by the law or break the law doesn't have to be dependent on free will.
Okay, I'm really broke, right? I'm really broke. Why don't I just go and rob a convenience store with a mask and nobody would ever know that it was me?
Because your
Because I'm a Christian,
desire,
I know that I ought not do that.
your desire to not break the law outweighs your desire for food. You're hungry, you're starving, and you want to eat. You want to rob a store to get some food, but your desire to be virtuous outweighs your passion or your need for food. So, yeah, it's the same thing. If somebody puts a gun to your head and says deny Christ, and you say I'm going to take the bullet, your desire or your desire to not deny Christ is going to outweigh your desire to live.
Denial would entail that I have a choice. Can't
All
deny
right.
something if you didn't have a choice in it.
So next question is also from Mrs. Foxworth. Says, if God is perfectly just and perfectly good, doesn't the very existence of sin logically require that he granted us real freedom to choose? So kind of like a touch up on what she had said there before.
It's the freedom to choose. Doesn't the very existence of sin logically require that he granted us real freedom to choose? Maybe, I don't know. I don't know yet.
All
That's
right.
again, that's the paradox that I'm in, and I get it.
All right, fair enough. Vigilante comes in with another one. Steelborne. If a dictator holds a rigged election, do you have a choice or the illusion of choice?
In that system, I would say you have an illusion of choice, but that's not a real dilemma.
Okay, all right.
No, that doesn't really do anything for the determinist position.
SD guy says, are God's actions predestined? If not, doesn't that mean he has free will? If God has free will, it exists.
Yeah. So to be honest, when I was writing this
was going to
opening,
be my actual question to you. I had to choose between three. I left this one out, but my question was going to be: if God has free will, wouldn't that make it necessary?
yeah.
Yeah, I tried making that argument too, and he's like, "No, God's will is transcendent," and it's like,
Well, we did.
It's free.
So we actually did this on my debate prep stream. I was writing that opening. I was like, "Ooh, I got him here. I got a trick." And then I got to the end, and I was like, "Wait, I have a problem," because I believe God does have free will, and
Then free will necessarily. Yeah.
so and then Shiva came up on the call. I was like, "Shiva, what do we do here? How do I figure this out?" And he's like, "Well, you can either apply to appeal to divine mystery, and just be like, I don't know God's nature." Or you can, and basically what I decided on is like, I can try to use some clever rhetoric and like make up some other. So that's why I was like, no, it's transcendent will. But I know I kind of took an L on that one.
Yeah.
I was hoping you wouldn't ask that question.
I literally thought that. And I was like, wait a minute, doesn't God have free will? Does God have to make us? No, then he has free will that he chose to do so.
No, I do believe God has free will.
That's funny. That's great.
So if I took the L, this might be a debate that I'll say, yeah, I kind of took a L on that.
Next one comes in from Mrs. Foxworth. Why does the Bible constantly command people to choose, repent, and obey if no real choice exists?
That's an excellent question, Mrs. Foxworthy.
Well, again, this is everybody always conflates choice with will. Choice and will are not the same thing.
What's your will then?
Your will is your agency or faculty. A choice is a selection or an option. So, and I'm saying that our choice, that's the computational irreducibility. We don't know the future. So we're commanded to follow the law and do right because we don't know the future and we have this illusion of free will. So we choose our agency, which is inspired by God, or we're either following the influence of our father God or our father Satan. And so we're commanded to follow God, but yeah, just anyway, yeah.
All right. And that right there is, I'll let this last one come through into the super chat. Is it easier to correctly estimate the physical laws of the universe or the moral laws?
It's easier to correctly estimate the physical laws. Easier?
Yeah,
well,
I don't think this necessarily is a well-formed question because easier would be dependent upon the person. Like some people might have a better understanding of like mathematics and they might understand.
That's what I was.
But like some people
that's what I was thinking.
More so aligned to like philosophy and stuff like that. So like,
yeah, if you start getting into physics with me, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Look, dude, I did my entire high school physics class. I took both my midterm and my final exam with no notes, and we were allowed like 2 pages of notes for each of them. And I got 100% on both of them, and I couldn't fucking tell you shit about physics to this day still. All it was just math for me, so it was like, this is easy.
Yeah, but once you start getting into like quantum physics and what's like the double slit experiments and stuff like that, then it's like, what? Even quantum physicists will tell you they don't understand quantum physics, though.
Yeah.
I saw a guy was doing a college course, and he's like, I just want to tell all the students in this course. He's like a professor. He's like, I'm going to tell all the students in the course.
One too. Yeah, I know what you're
He's like, by the end of this course,
You're gonna be more confused than you started.
You're going to be more confused than when you started, and that's how we all feel. Like none of us even understand what we're talking about. So
yeah, that's I seen that exact same one. It's funny. He's basically says like everyone will tell you that nobody actually knows the secret to knowing is that nobody actually knows. That's or something along those lines. It's a good one. I think he would I think with this question, I think like a different way of asking it would have been like is it easier to discover and agree upon the physical laws of the universe than the moral laws? And if so, like what would that suggest about whether free will is necessary?
I guess easier to agree on, like, do I think more people can understand empirical sense data? And then,
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, well, the physical laws of the universe are observable,
empirically.
testable. Yeah, we can do experiments and we can figure it out. Whereas morals is there's still a debate about, are they subjective? Are they objective? Who decides what's right and what's wrong? You kind of just have to appeal to whatever God you serve, lowercase g or uppercase g. So is it easier? I don't know. I don't know. They're both difficult.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And that right there, guys, is going to wrap up the Q&A for tonight. Thank you to everyone in the live chat for all the questions, the engagement, the support. It is really what allows me to keep bringing you these debates and the entire Swords of Reason experience week after week is because of you guys, and I appreciate every single one of you. And of course, a huge thank you to our debaters, which is another big reason for the Swords of Reason experience week after week. Big thank you to them for stepping into the arena tonight, sharpening their ideas in front of us all. And let me, before we move on, let me check real quick. Are you both planning to stay for the after panel?
Yes,
for like 20 minutes.
Okay,
I
okay.
am. And yes, and by the way, all of you should come on Friday to watch me debate Destiny.
Oh, shit.
Destiny?
Okay.
How'd you pull that off? Anyway.
Nice. So here's what's happening next, okay? We're going to roll the debate outro song and video, okay? It's going to run for about 4 minutes. Perfect time. Hit the washroom, grab a drink, stretch your legs, whatever you need to do before the chaos and chill begins. During the outro, I'm going to drop the link in the chat for anyone who wants to join the open panel, test your ideas, continue the conversation. Anyone is welcome to hop in. Just come in ready to think, question, debate. If you're coming on to just, troll or bring your personal dramas with the debaters or any of this, you're probably just going to get muted and booted pretty quickly. So, while you're ahead with that idea, just quit. And before we run the outro, one last reminder, make sure you subscribe to both debaters. Their links are in the description. And if you're enjoying these debates, hit the subscribe on the Speakeasy channel as well, so you don't miss any of our upcoming Swords of Reasons battles every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. This is where logic meets passion. All right, let's roll the outro, and I'll see you all in a few minutes for the chaos and chill.
Into the circle where the echoes collide, truth through the static, no place to hide. Iron tongue, sharpen fire in our breath. We dance with conviction on the edge of death. Your words are bullets, mine are storms. Ideas forged where lightning forms. No retreat, no treason. We clash our swords of reason. Cut through lies with steel precision. No faith, no fear, just raw collision. We clash our swords of reason. Facts burn brighter than a prophet's flame. Egos crumble, but the truth remains. Every scar, a mark of thought's crusade. In the battlefield of minds we've made. Speak your truth, but bear the cost. Every claim can still get lost in the war of voice and vision. Feel the friction. We clash our swords of reason. No silence left for indecision. Ideas break with loud precision. We clash our swords of reason. Strike me with logic, I'll plead my proof. We cut through chaos to carve out truth. Let the sparks fly, let the echo scream. This is no debate, it's a metal dream. We clash our swords of reason. In the storm of thought's collision. Forged in fire, pure precision. We clash our swords of reason. Reason bleeds but never dies. No surrender, no retreat. In the war of words, we find a beat. Swords of reason.
Testing. And we're
Oh
back.
my God! Look at this.
Well.
Huge panel.
Oh yeah, and to the people in the back, just wait till somebody gets down. We'll get you up. Just and the people in the chat could pay 50 to kick someone, but the main debaters are off limits.
I have
just
an
so everyone knows.
$18,000 computer. Most still beats my ass up here. I don't understand how this is possible.
I'm
I
just
don't
gonna-
know.
okay,
$1,000
real quick,
computer.
easy. Have you ever heard of a band called Trivium?
Just special, I guess.
Trivia.
I foreknew. I had foreknew knowledge.
Yeah.
He was
like
predetermined
I was
to get up to the panel
predetermined
first.
to click it first.
Oh, what just happened? Why did it just kick everyone? What the fuck? Hold up. What in the world is going on here? Why did it do that? It literally just kicked everyone.
Wow, man.
that?
Something I said.
rude.
Jeez.
That was so weird.
Well,
I
that was
switched
predestined.
scenes. It
Was
shouldn't
that
have
free
kicked
willed? Yeah.
Sovereign
Did
interference.
you
My
really
free
do
will
that,
was
or
just
did you do that?
infringed upon by putting backstage.
I think
Key question. A key question for JS is right. If free
Wait,
will
in
doesn't
order,
exist,
in order, bitch. In order.
What do you mean in order?
There's
Shut the
Give me
fuck
hold on,
up.
I'll explain.
Mo and
Shut
then
the
me,
fuck up.
and then you. You
Yeah,
fucking
go,
leprechaun.
go lick my left
hold on.
nutsack. Okay,
Because I got
so,
a question.
JS.
I got a
Yeah.
question too.
Yeah,
Hold
you
up,
got
hold up,
nothing.
like, here's
You
the-
got
here's
nothing. Actually, no, go ahead, Average. Let's give Average the
Mo was
soapbox.
first.
Yeah.
Mo was first.
No, I'll wait. I
Oh,
want to
now,
hear this.
yeah, I give him the
No,
fucking
Mo-
stage, and he just says, "Oh no, I want Mo to go on." Shut the
Hold
fuck
on,
up.
No, it's
Right,
an
JS.
order. It's an order.
Uh,
the fuck up, bitch. Back the fuck up. I'll knock the fuck out you. Damn, man. Hey.
That's a crack.
I'm playing, Average.
Hold on.
I am playing.
Karak, what he means
You ain't
is
playing,
he's an,
you're
he's an American.
I'm a little Irish guy. I'm gonna
Yeah,
get
no,
angry.
thank you, easy. Thank you, easy. Right now,
He's an angry
JS.
little
Right?
elf.
If Leprechaun, if free will
Same
doesn't
shit.
exist, how do you delineate between slavery and non-slavery?
Slavery is against your will. It's unchosen. So
Oh,
It's
so
unchosen.
free will does exist. Oh, okay. Alhamdulillah.
Were you
free will
predetermined
exists
to be a
because of
slave?
slavery.
Were you predetermined to be
What
a
he's,
slave?
what he's saying is the entailment of slavery's existence and what it means by definition implies that free will exists. That's what
Yeah, the
he's saying.
entailment would have to be free will. It
Yeah.
has to exist in order for slavery to exist.
No.
Yeah.
No.
JS, you just said one sec, JS. You just said slavery
was
would
an
mean that
amazing
your
rebuttal.
your will was impeded,
That was some
or your will was
Professor Dave,
infringed.
I'm right because I'm
meaning
right.
it was no longer free.
I never said there's no such thing as will. My argument was for contingent will, not free. So if you
How
have
do you delineate
will,
between slavery and not?
So what
If it's
kind
all
of-
just contingent will,
kind of free
then
will you
even a
arguing?
slave, that's just contingent
because-
will.
because if you're a slave, your will is being restricted, and that's contingent
Ah.
on a slave owner capturing you.
Wait, if you're predetermined,
Why
isn't-
are you a slave?
isn't your will
Because
isn't your will being inflicted upon if God predetermines your will?
yeah, you have there is an agency. It's just not free.
So they were predetermined to be slaves.
So you say
Like,
there's a
we're all
scope of it, but it's a
predetermined to
lim-
be
so what you're
slaves.
saying is there's
Yeah.
a scope of it, but it's a limited scope. Is that what
Average
you're
is
saying?
predetermined to look like he has.
And
like he was
whether we
controlling
mean-
that
What happens if you're born to parents that are slaves and you yourself become a slave because you're their child and born on a plantation?
Or that doesn't even have to be the case. What if you're living in Africa? There's a physical slave and a metaphysical slave, but like a physical slave,
What's
if
a
you're
metaphysical
working
slave?
What's a metaphysical slave?
like a slave to God.
See,
What?
when I was arguing against Aiden on slavery, when I said the only possible justification for slavery would be ontological slavery, what I was saying was that everyone's on the same level. There's nobody who is actually a slave or deserves by their very foundational nature to be a slave. So when you say metaphysical slave, it sounds like just like a fiction just to make a point. So what are you getting at?
It sounds like
I mean-
sophistry a little bit.
I mean, a slave to Christ.
Well, hold on. Are you choosing?
But you're a slave to
follow
sin if
Christ?
you're not a slave to Christ.
Exactly. That's the
Hold on, wait,
metaphysical slavery.
Are you
Then the
choosing-
physical
are you choosing
physical
follow Christ?
slavery is when I'm some African guy and I'm out in the fields one day, and then some other tribe rolls up and locks me in a cage and sends me over to America. I didn't choose that and freely will that.
Right. So I think what you're getting at is the fact that you're in a circumstance of human to human contact. That doesn't change your fundamental nature. That's what you're trying to argue. You're arguing when you're talking about will in this debate, you're talking about your fundamental nature, which might be imposed upon in a different way by other humans. That we're not talking about how humans work with God, though. Right.
I don't know.
So
You
there's
didn't
the
even
human-
understand what you just said.
I don't know what you
Right.
just said.
So here's the thing. There's the human to human level, right? If I push
Yes.
you and you
That's
go
the
backwards,
physical slavery.
right? But have I made? Does that a reflection on?
I'm
you
a
and your
wage
humanity?
slave.
But that's not a reflection on your humanity, right? If I push you, like because I'm not God and your existence is not contingent upon me, we're on the same level, right?
Right. And then what I mean by metaphysical slavery is you're either a slave to your father, Christ, God, Christ, or you're a slave to sin.
Right. On the
Yeah.
on the will level, like on the scope of your will, right? Not in the fact that you don't make choices, but that the nature of your will is limited in terms of who you're a slave to.
Yeah.
But, like, do you not see how you're caught in a bind here, JS? Because you're saying there is no free will; it's all just contingent will. But then, if I just reduce the contingent will of someone else, they still have contingent will. I'm not taking anything away.
Right.
So by your worldview, slavery is not a thing. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, eventually we have to get to the necessary. From the contingent, we have to find the necessary. Otherwise,
If
we
God
have
has
infinite
free will and
regress.
it's part of his nature,
So-
then free will necessarily has to exist.
Yeah,
We've already
okay,
been
we
through
already
that one.
we already got through that.
I got a pretty good
Those are
question
my earliest
for
chats.
JS. So if God commanded Adam and Eve to not eat from the tree, why would he give them a commandment not to do something if he already predetermined them to do the thing?
I don't know. You'll have to ask God about that. It's a perplexing quandary.
Well, no,
Not really.
it makes commandments completely
Why
useless.
did God put the snake in the garden and the tree in the garden?
Hey, JS, did God since God is like outside of time and space, and then also in time and space and everywhere, that means like there's nowhere that he hasn't predetermined or doesn't have control or dominion over, or is nowhere, like his presence is nowhere, like is everywhere, correct?
Right.
Okay, then what would hell be?
You want to go into my my theology on what hell is?
I thought about
believe,
that, Everest,
Hold
but
on, I'm just
figured
wondering.
I believe-
Scripture says that hell is the absence of God, correct?
Being in hell is being separated from God. I believe
Again,
hell is a real place.
But how can
So-
God be everywhere and hell be a separation?
and
How can he be
predetermine
separated
what's
from
going
everywhere?
on in hell? How could he predetermine what's going on there if he's not there?
I think it's at the core of the earth.
Okay, is God still not
That-
everywhere?
That doesn't have anything to do with my question.
Hold on, is God
Where
still
you-
everywhere? Yes.
You want to get into Hollow Earth? You want to get into Agartha
No,
and
hold
the
on.
tunnels and the
Hold on.
Leviathan?
I mean, if
being
you
in
want
the
to get
depth?
into big ball of ice theory, I'm more than happy to. What we're talking about here is the
God
absence
everywhere?
of God
The pit- the
hell
pit
right
that
now.
opened
That's
up
what
and
we're-
swallowed the Kohathites, and they fell into they fell down into
Listen,
the pit of the earth.
Listen,
No,
you're
JS, it's
you're
not-
pivoting. You're pivoting my question. My
Yeah.
question is simple. If God is everywhere and can predetermine everything and has determined it all, then how is he absent from hell? Then how
He's
is
not.
he? Okay, then
Then how can you be separated from
how
God
does
if he's not everywhere?
How
Like, that
does
doesn't make any
Scripture
sense.
directly say that the hell
My
is the
landlord-
absent- How
My
does
landlord owns my
Scripture-
apartment, but I've never talked to him before.
I would need
Scripture-
a
that's a
chapter
bad
and
argument,
verse for that
okay.
citation. though.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 Thessalonians 1:9.
God gave Satan dominion over the earth. He
But is God
allows
in the
him.
earth? Is God still omnipresent on earth?
Yes.
Okay, so is God omnipresent everywhere? That's what omnipresent would be. He's everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Then how could hell be the separation from God if he's still there?
Well, God, do you think that an atheist? So you can have hell and heaven on earth while you're alive. I believe atheists are separated from God. That doesn't mean God's not on earth, or that God's.
That doesn't follow. No, so the problem is if God is omnipresent, hell is a place. He would be there, but how can you be eternally separated from somebody who's like actively there?
He's there, but they don't recognize him. They don't know him, so they're separate from him. So it's the same way. It's the same way an atheist on earth is separated from God, even though God is there. They're separated from him.
Well, no, they're not separated from him, and here's why: because God predetermined them to be atheists, which means he's actually directly influencing.
The blind
their
person
world.
can't see. The blind person can't see the tree, but it doesn't mean the tree's not there.
I grant that, but hold on. The atheist isn't separated from God because God predetermined, which means he's actively involved in their beliefs. He's actively willing them to not believe in him. So he's actually there. They can't be separated from God if he's right there and he's actually actively influencing them.
Have you read Jude verse 4, where it talks about, for there are certain men crept in unawares who were before of old ordained to this condemnation, ungodly men turning the grace of our God into lasciviousness and denying the only Lord God and our Lord Jesus Christ?
Have I read it? Sure.
No, well, I'm asking everybody else in the panel who's, I'm a compatibilist, so I disagree and agree with you both at the same time in different ways. Because even like
here.
Jay Dyer, so Jay Dyer, if you see a dialogue with him and Andrew Wilson is asking Jay Dyer about theodicy. How do we resolve theodicy? And what Jay Dyer tells him is something similar to what Charles Spurgeon would say, is there's primary and secondary causes. There's God's causal will for how the world is going to go, which I would argue encompasses literally everything. And then there's secondary causes, which are free will choices within the scope of God's decreed will for how things will go. Now, God's decreed will would apply to literally everything that goes down, including who goes to heaven and hell. And that's my conviction. And also, we are accountable. Our will is free in the sense of we make our own choices. We own it. We are responsible, and that's not.
But we're
fake.
limited by our nature that God created.
We're definitely limited by our nature. Yes.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that position, but I'm not sure. I think there's more entailments of compatibilism that I think I have problems with. If I remember compatibilism correctly.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't
my
believe in
question would
libertarian
be:
free will.
does God will all people to be with Him in heaven, or does He will people to go to hell?
So I think God is multifaceted, and He can be angry with the wicked at the same time as He has compassion for them. In the same time that if you read like Psalm 2, laughing in derision at the destruction of the wicked, but He also wills all men to be saved, because I think God is more profound and deep than we are capable of being.
Yeah,
and so He can have multiple attitudes simultaneously in different ways.
Yeah, that's why a lot of this stuff is, I can't really answer these questions because I don't know. I'm not God, so.
Ever said a great citation here.
When you're making a claim about God, hold on, Jess. Just when you're making a claim about God, you have to be at least be able to give a justification for it.
No, I think I've given justifications for most of the questions all night. There are some that I've acknowledged are paradoxes.
For mine, but that's fine.
The scripture that Everest gave, 2 Thessalonians 1:9, who shall be punished with everlasting destruction from the presence of the Lord and from the glory of His power.
Yeah. There's different degrees of presence, too, because there's God's manifest presence, like in the temple, which, by the way, He withdrew His manifest presence when Jesus says, your temple is left unto you desolate. That means that the presence of the Lord had left during the time of Jesus. And also, there's His omnipresence, which is just a fact everywhere, but there's different degrees of God. Also being with the Lord, like walking with the Lord, like Enoch did, like Adam did, like others have had.
Like Jacob who wrestled with God, that's a theophany, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a sense of closeness with God for those who turn to Him and receive His mercy.
Okay, we would disagree on this in re-examination. So we call those theophanies. That's
I agree with theophanies.
Appearing in time and space. Okay,
so I agree with theophanies. We're not disagreeing. We're not disagreeing. I'm saying there's different degrees. So you would agree?
No, okay, yeah.
You guys, can I interrupt really quick?
Yes, of course, Space Grandma.
Absolutely not. No.
I will go really, really fast.
No, take it slow. So I'm tired of hearing these fucks.
No, you guys are. I am going to bow out, but I do have to say something because.
Oh, is it time to take your pills, Grandma?
No, it's out of respect. You guys are miles ahead of me when it comes to what we're talking about. I am trying. My knowledge is based from like physics and science, and what you guys are discussing, I don't have any business being on this panel with you guys. It's an insult to you to have me sitting here. But I did want to tell you one thing. You guys, you brought up the slit experiment, and that's how I have to process God and religion is through understanding of physics and things like that. Right now, my son is working with me. Anyway, my son and I were discussing the slit experiment, and he answered it. He came up with the answer. And I think I've already told Reverend Russ that, and Avarice might know this as well. But gentlemen, the answer to the slit experiment is the only thing that holds us together. If you guys understand the slit experiment, when particles are being observed, they behave. When they're not being observed, they act chaotically. And my son realized, because it has driven many scientists to insanity, and it was my son, and he wouldn't take credit for it. He said God told him to say it. So I'm saying it for him from God to you guys, that the answer to the slit experiment is that we are held together physically because we're under constant observation from God. and that's the answer to the slit experiment. It's not many worlds.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I thought the answer to the slit experiment was to aim for the clitoris.
Stop. Come on. That was base.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
This is why we can't have nice things.
It's a family show.
It's okay. I love
Degenerate,
that,
dude.
No, that was deep and base, Grandma. I
That
like
was
that.
DGen level 9,000 average.
What Aver said was retarded.
It does. I never take offense to anything Aver says because I know he loves me.
It's my favorite experiment. I'm sorry.
Yeah, what can you say? Anyway, gentlemen, you guys are so far ahead of me, so I'm going to bow out.
My wife says hi, Premonition, by the way. She's like knacking at me to tell you to say hi.
And kiss the baby. But you guys, I am learning, and I'm struggling. It's so complicated, and I don't know why physics is so simple, and this is so complicated. And I believe.
See, it's the opposite to me. Well, yeah, they're both confusing.
Anyway, but you guys, I have no business being here.
You're muted, Easy.
Before you go, Premonition, we have a question for you. It says, Premonition, do you prefer the OG 1979 Carl Sagan Cosmos or the Neil deGrasse Tyson reboot?
Well,
are these TV shows? What is this?
Yeah, you don't know the Cosmos show? The one that you guys probably know the one Neil deGrasse Tyson did at least, right?
I know the OG one. I'm aware of Neil deGrasse. I think Neil deGrasse is a hack. So
yeah, so Carl
Depends on
Sagan
how
did
you
that
define
first.
hacks. See, if you put the ice in an elevator, it goes
you would
up.
you would have to go with Carl Sagan, but there are people who have they've now combined it. And they've got an understanding of it, like I was just discussing about my son and the slit experiment. So we've gone past those guys. As a matter of fact, before Einstein died, and the AI tech is now saying that the universe cannot work without the existence of God. And prior to Einstein's death, he said the same thing. So these scientists all circle back to God.
Yeah, it's basically a transcendental argument. It's that
but
does logic exist if no human minds are there to observe it? Yeah, because God is the ultimate
that's
observer.
The slit experiment, and it was my son who was told it. And I told my son, I said, "My God, you just answered the slit experiment." And he goes, "No, God told me. And I said, okay, I won't give you. All right. But anyway, gentlemen, that's it. And I am gonna watch and learn. But there are people waiting that are more deserving than I. So you guys you're all so lovely. And I'll watch from the sidelines. And we'll see you later in the week.
Thank you so much. You're so
Later,
lovely
Base
as
Grandma.
well.
We all love you,
Thank
Base
you for
Grandma.
coming.
God bless. Premonition.
That's one of my favorite experiments because it involves waves and friction.
Are they waves or are they
and a little bit of particle friction? And are they? I don't know. But if you create a wave motion on what we call the clitoral,
shut the fuck up, this guy. Why do we even let him speak? Going back to that main point though, where JS was bringing up hell, right? Is hell a physical place or is it a metaphysical place? I would argue it's a metaphysical place because like the whole absence of God. Like, it can't be physical then. So, ergo, what do we mean that it's not a physical place, it's a metaphysical place?
No.
When you look at the likes of these trans, when you look at the likes of, like, these atheists on this kind of shit, they're on all this medication, all this shit, because,
what
like,
she just
their
said
mind
explains
is...
it.
Well, but
What
Christ
she just
said,
said
don't
explains it. Just because the scientists are in the presence of the double slit experiment, but they're not looking at it.
I'm not talking about double slit.
God is in the presence, but he can turn his back on something. He can not look at now.
But if he turns his back, he still knows what's going to happen in your book.
Yeah, God knows what's happening in hell. I think.
Well, to
it's
answer
predetermined, so
Terry,
everything
real quick. Jesus says, "Don't be afraid of those who can kill the body and do no more, but be afraid of him who can throw both body and soul in hell." So I would think that there's a spiritual and a physical aspect to hell, because otherwise,
That's what
why
I
is
would say
Christ bringing
too.
up body?
Yeah. Oh,
I think
I
I
wanna-
think it's
no.
both.
But
It
one
hasn't
sec,
been
because
brought
you
up,
are not just physical. You're also metaphysical.
I agree. Well, I would say spiritual, metaphysical. You could.
Well,
call
spiritual,
them-
yeah, spiritual. We can go with spiritual.
Yeah, because spiritual is
Yeah.
personal, but not everything metaphysical is personal.
Yeah, which means that there's not just a physical realm. There's also a spiritual realm.
Agreed. I'm just saying.
And the things
thread
that you do
between
here,
body and
not
soul.
only
By the way, I
yeah,
think
but
Platonism
one
is
sec. This whole thing of the physical world and like why
Yeah, you
like
can get rid of
like I
avarice
said, they
for
have
50
depression, they
bucks.
want to self-delete, all this kind of shit. That would also replicate in the spiritual world.
I
The
agree
things
there's
you
a
do in this
correspondence.
world affects you in the spiritual world as well.
I agree. There's a correspondence. For example, if you drink to the point of getting drunk, that is sin. So that there is a correspondence of how we use our bodies. Whatever we do, eat when we drink, we do it to the glory of God. So that's true.
Yes.
But
And if we
but the body and soul can be separated in death.
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like this whole concept of the hell in an afterlife and all this kind of shit. That's the whole like that's what the way I see it at least. Where it's like describing this whole thing of the spiritual realm. If you do all this more shit, like not only will you like lose the will to live, then when you go to the spiritual realm, or return back to the spiritual realm, whatever way you want to phrase it, you're basically going to be in that constant mind state.
Yeah.
So
I
Constant depression, constant
depression.
I just want to get back to it though.
Free will
So
guys,
JS, do you think so that then God has, since he's everything he made and predetermined, then he predetermined who's going to hell and how they're going to get punished, and he's the punisher then at the end of it all.
That's what Jude 4 would imply.
He is the punisher. He's the judge, the jury, the executioner.
So then when you go down to hell, he's the one that he's already predetermined all the stuff that it's going to happen for you before you were even born.
Yeah. What re-examine Rev? What's the verse about the pot that was made for
You're talking about Romans
destruction?
9. Romans 9 is usually the kill shot for in terms of determinism and in terms of our will. Now, I'm not a compatibilist, so I don't deny free will. I just think there's a mystery to it that is both are taught in scripture and we accept both by faith, even if we can't understand or mathematically formulate how that's going to work.
Well, how does
but
that verse go? It's
it's usually
the
like
pot,
Romans
the pot
9.
that's made for destruction and the pot that's made for the
Yeah,
benefit.
Romans
And
9:21.
the pot,
Have not the power over the clay of the same lump to make one vessel unto honor, another unto dishonor. What if God, willing to show his wrath and to make his power known, endured with much long suffering the vessels of wrath fitted for destruction, and that he might make known the riches of his glory in the vessels of mercy, which he had afore prepared unto glory.
so God makes people for
And-
destruction, and God
but,
makes other people for righteousness. And the pot doesn't ask the potter, "Why did I get made this way?"
But also we can go up to 9:12 and read from there. It was said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger, as it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. What shall we say then? Is there unrighteousness with God? God forbid. For he said to Moses, I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion.
Right, and that's why I bring up John the Baptist and Mary and Adam and all those things, because I'm saying if God is merely using prophecy as a way of giving a report, then is God just a passive observer, and then God is just saying what's going to happen?
It's hard to ask JS certain questions like this because he'll just go, I don't know.
No, not JS.
I'm not God.
Not JS. The people who
Probably
who are
answered
more
all your
skeptical.
questions.
I'm
No,
talking
but
about-
I have
I'm
to
talking
avoid
about-
some
I'm talking
questions
about
because
those
you'll
who are more
say, I don't
skeptical
know,
about
I'm not God.
predestination, though. I'm not talking about the ones that are more skeptical about predestination, which would be, is God, if prophecy is what God has said is going to happen, then is God just a passive observer in prophecies that will happen? Just saying what's going to happen in the future because of the efficient cause that has nothing to do with him, but has to do with what's going on in the physical universe.
That's confusing dependence with participation. Like under a dependence model, like God.
Doesn't mean
Hold on. Shut the fuck up. Under the dependence model, God cannot act unless humans allow him. So yeah, that would restrict God's sovereignty. But under a participation model, God chooses to act through humans he knows will cooperate. So this preserves his sovereignty. It's the same thing. Like if I look into the future and I know that JS is never going to have an urban adventure again, am I making the choice for him? No, he's he's choosing not to do this. Okay, just because I know about it doesn't mean I'm like causing it.
Okay, but who makes the
But Mo,
who makes
now
the
that
person?
now that you've told JS that that in the future he will have no urban adventures, but now he decides that he's going to have an urban adventure. How does that work?
That's sort of like Back to the Future logic. Come on,
But it tracks
fading out
though,
of the
because if
picture.
God gives a prophecy of something that is inevitably going to happen, say the return of Christ, we know it's an inevitability. Now, how can man, knowing that this is going to be the future, act in a way that can change that future?
No, if I chose to go have an urban adventure just so I could prove you wrong, could I do the same thing with God? Could I choose to do the opposite?
No, you're assuming that I'm in the hypothetical. I'm not telling you. I'm just looking. I'm just observing. Right? That's the hypothetical. I'm not gonna like tell you about it. So
Yes, but it's the same thing because God would give prophecies years before they would come to fulfillment. And even the book of Revelation.
But he would know that the people that he's giving prophecies are going to act a certain way, right?
But what's the determinant of what people are going to do? Does God make your personality, or do you choose your own personality and God makes you a blank slate?
Wait, say that again?
What makes you have the inclination for the choices you make? For example, if you have a certain personality, you make a certain set of choices typically, right? So do you make your own personality? Does God make you a blank slate and then you continue the creation from there?
Neither.
Or does
I'd say
God make
neither.
you who you are?
God doesn't make you a blank slate, and you don't choose your.
Well, there's a lot in there because.
Well, I think that's kind of the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So you're asking me. Well, no. One would be like. So are you saying that free will versus? I'm trying to understand where you're getting at.
Okay,
Simplify it for me. It's late.
In order for God to know.
I don't know, but I gotta go.
Okay, see you, JS. I have a good one.
Running.
Oh, wait,
He's running.
Let JS tell everybody where to find him.
JS Urban Adventures, Monday night Dreaded Conservative show, news, politics, current events. Friday night, I'm always on VK, and then I do open panel all night long after that. Saturday nights, we watch UFC fights, and then we argue all night in the Discord. And throughout the week in the morning times, when I'm not too tired, we're just reading through the whole Bible from beginning to end.
It's
we're in
tone
Isaiah.
policed.
It is tone police. When I'm doing the Bible study, don't come in the chat being a degenerate. I don't like it when I'm, trying to read the Bible and stuff. But we're working through Isaiah right now, so we're more than halfway through. So come check it out.
All right. Well,
JS Suburban Adventures, everybody. JS Suburban
thanks for
Adventures.
coming. Everyone go sub up.
Yep. Later,
Yeah.
y'all.
Switch the spot.
So I guess to answer your question more directly, I would say it's neither extreme, right? Like humans are created with a nature and purpose, but not like a fixed morality that we're gonna do this thing.
What I'm saying is, if God knows what choices you're going to make, part of that has to do with your constitution, like who you are as an individual, right?